Daniel Brooks stared at the woman standing beside his desk at 11:47 on a Thursday night. Isabella Laurent, billionaire, executive legend, the woman whose face appeared on magazine covers, was asking him, a single father who debugged spreadsheets in a corner cubicle, to fix her dating profile. Not a corporate presentation, not a marketing strategy. Her dating profile. He looked at her perfectly tailored suit, her exhausted eyes, and the phone she held out like a confession. In that moment, every assumption he'd made about success, loneliness, and what people actually needed began to crack open. Before we begin, I want to invite you to join me on this journey. If this story speaks to you, please hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel and connecting with all of you. The fluorescent lights in the 16th floor offices of Meridian Analytics hummed with that particular frequency that made Daniel's teeth ache after hour 9. He'd been staring at the same column of data for 20 minutes, trying to find the error that was throwing off the quarterly projections, when he heard the elevator chime. Nobody came up this late. Nobody except him, and that was only because his babysitter charged extra after midnight, and he needed to squeeze every working minute he could get before that clock struck 12. Daniel didn't look up when he heard footsteps. Probably Jerry from security making his rounds. But Jerry wore heavy boots that announced his presence 3 hallways away. These footsteps were different, precise, expensive sounding, the kind of shoes that cost more than Daniel's monthly rent. "Excuse me." He froze. That voice didn't belong to Jerry. Daniel lifted his eyes from the screen and felt his stomach drop. Isabella Laurent stood beside his desk, looking slightly uncomfortable and entirely out of place in his dim corner of the office. She wore a charcoal suit that probably cost what he made in 2 months. Her dark hair pulled back in a way that was meant to look effortless, but likely took expensive maintenance. Her makeup was still perfect despite the late hour, but something about her eyes looked tired in a way that powder couldn't hide. "You're Daniel Brooks, right?" she asked. Yes." He stood up too quickly, knocking his knee against the desk drawer. "Ms. Laurent, I didn't know you were still here." "I work late." She said it like a confession, not a brag. "I saw your light on and thought—" She paused, seeming to reconsider something. "This is going to sound strange." Daniel waited. Everything about this moment was already strange. Isabella Laurent knew his name. Isabella Laurent was standing at his desk at midnight. Isabella Laurent looked nervous, which seemed fundamentally wrong, like seeing a lion hesitate. "I need help with something." She glanced back toward the elevators, as if checking whether anyone might see her. "Something personal. I know that's inappropriate, and if you're uncomfortable, just say so and I'll leave." "What kind of help?" Isabella pulled her phone from her pocket. The case was simple black leather, which surprised him somehow. He'd expected something more elaborate, more expensive looking. She unlocked it, scrolled for a moment, then turned the screen toward him with visible reluctance. "My dating profile," she said. "I need you to fix it." Daniel blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "I know how this sounds." Isabella set the phone on his desk between them, like evidence she was presenting to a jury. "6 months ago, my assistant convinced me to try one of those apps. I filled it out the way I'd approach a business proposal, efficiently, accurately, highlighting relevant achievements. It's been 6 months and I've gotten exactly 3 matches, all of whom seemed more interested in my net worth than anything else." Daniel looked at the phone, then back at her. "And you want me to rewrite it?" "I've seen your work." Isabella gestured vaguely toward his computer. "You have a gift for taking complex data and making it tell a story that people actually want to read. Last month's market analysis report, everyone in the executive meetings was talking about how readable it was, how it felt human instead of just numbers. I thought maybe you could do the same thing with this." "I write corporate reports," Daniel said carefully. "I'm not sure that translates to dating profiles." "Ooh, you're a single parent, right?" The question caught him off guard. "How did you—" "I pay attention." Isabella's expression softened slightly. "You leave every day at 5:30. You never come to happy hour. Last week when the printer jammed, you had a photo of a little girl stuck in the output tray, maybe 7 or 8 years old, brown hair, missing her front tooth. You grabbed it before anyone else could see and looked mortified. That tells me you understand how to communicate something real, something that matters." Daniel felt exposed in a way he didn't appreciate. He kept his daughter, Emma, separate from work deliberately. She was his sanctuary, the one part of his life that stayed clean and uncomplicated. The fact that Isabella had noticed felt like an invasion, even if her tone was kind. "Her name's Emma," he said finally. "She's 8. And her mother? Gone. 3 years now. It's just us." Isabella nodded slowly, and something passed across her face. Not pity, but recognition. Like she understood the weight of that statement more than most people would. "I'll pay you," she said. "Whatever your hourly rate is, doubled." "You don't need to pay me. Then do it as a favor, please." The please sounded rusty, like a word she didn't use often. "I know I have everything from the outside. Money, position, success, but I can't remember the last time someone looked at me and saw a person instead of a title or a bank account. I thought maybe if the profile was different, if it showed something real." She trailed off, looking embarrassed. "Never mind, this was stupid. I'm sorry I bothered you." She reached for her phone, but Daniel picked it up first. "Give me 10 minutes, he said. Isabella's eyebrows rose. "Really? Really? But I need you to answer some questions, and you have to be honest. None of this corporate polish stuff, just the truth." She hesitated, then pulled over a chair from the adjacent desk. When she sat down, some of the executive armor seemed to slip. She looked smaller somehow, more uncertain. Daniel opened the dating app and immediately understood the problem. Her profile read like a LinkedIn page. Every photo was professionally shot. Business headshots, charity gala appearances, one of her shaking hands with the mayor. Her bio listed her education, her company positions, her net worth bracket. Under interests, she'd written strategic planning, market analysis, classical music, modern art. "When was the last time you actually went to a museum?" Daniel asked. I don't remember. Maybe 2 years ago?" "Do you like art?" "I like the idea of it. I keep meaning to go more." Daniel deleted modern art from her interests. "What do you actually do when you have free time?" "I don't really have free time." "Everyone has some downtime. What do you do with yours?" Isabella looked at the ceiling, thinking. "I read, I guess. Thriller novels, mostly. The kind with twisty plots that keep you up too late. And I watch cooking shows even though I can't cook anything more complicated than scrambled eggs. Sometimes I just sit on my balcony with wine and watch the city. That probably sounds pathetic." "That sounds human." Daniel started typing. "What kind of thrillers?" "The impossible murder ones. Locked room mysteries. Stories where you think you know what happened, and then everything flips in the last chapter." "Favorite author?" "Tana French, Ruth Ware, Flynn, obviously." Daniel nodded, making notes. "The classical music, is that real or aspirational?" Isabella's laugh was short and slightly bitter. "My mother insisted I learn piano for 12 years. I hated every minute of it. I listened to true crime podcasts and 80s rock mostly." "Much better." Daniel kept typing. "Now the photos. These are all professional shots. Do you have any normal pictures? Things from your actual life?" "I don't really take casual photos." "Nothing? Not even on your phone?" Isabella took the device back and scrolled through her camera roll. Most of it was screenshots of work emails and documents, but eventually she found a few personal images. One showed her on a hiking trail, windblown and laughing, no makeup, wearing a Northwestern sweatshirt. Another captured her at what looked like a farmer's market, examining a bunch of flowers. A third was clearly a selfie taken in her apartment. She was wearing pajamas and had a face mask on, holding a glass of wine, the city lights blurred behind her. "These," Daniel said, "use these." "I look terrible in them." "You look real in them. That's the point." He worked quickly, rewriting her bio to sound like a person instead of a resume. He kept her intelligence, that was clearly important to who she was, but filtered it through actual personality. He mentioned the thriller novels and the cooking shows. He made a joke about how she could identify every true crime red flag except apparently in her own dating life. He described her balcony wine ritual as a nightly negotiation with the city skyline, where honestly, the skyline usually wins. When he finished, he handed the phone back. Isabella read through the changes slowly, her expression unreadable. "This is..." She paused. "This is not what I expected." "It's honest," Daniel said. "That's what you asked for." It makes me sound ordinary. It makes you sound like someone worth getting to know. There's a difference. Isabella stared at the screen for a long moment. Then she looked up at him with an expression he couldn't quite interpret, somewhere between grateful and terrified. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I mean it. Thank you." "You're welcome." She stood smoothing her suit, the executive mask sliding back into place. But something had shifted. Some small crack had formed in the careful distance between their worlds. "I should let you get back to work," Isabella said. "I should get home before my babysitter charges me overtime." "Right. Of course." She started toward the elevator, then turned back. "Daniel." "Yeah?" "Does it get easier, the single parent thing?" The question hit him harder than it should have. Most people didn't ask. Most people just offered useless platitudes about time healing all wounds or how strong he must be. "No," he said honestly, "but you get better at it. The weight doesn't get lighter, but your shoulders get stronger." Isabella nodded slowly, something raw and unguarded crossing her face. "Good to know." Then she was gone, the elevator doors closing behind her, leaving Daniel alone with his spreadsheets and the strange feeling that something in his carefully controlled life had just shifted off its axis. 3 days later, Daniel was in the break room making his third coffee of the morning when Isabella appeared beside him. He jumped, sloshing hot liquid over his hand. "Sorry," she said, though she didn't sound particularly sorry. "Didn't mean to startle you." "It's fine." Daniel grabbed a napkin and wiped his hand. "What can I do for you?" "The profile worked?" "Yeah?" 23 matches in 3 days, 10 actual conversations, 5 requests for dates. Daniel smiled despite himself. "That's great." "I rejected all of them." His smile faltered. "Oh." Isabella leaned against the counter, studying him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. She was wearing another expensive suit, this one navy blue, but she'd taken off the jacket and rolled up her sleeves. It made her look slightly less intimidating, though not by much. "They all wanted to talk about surface things," she said. "Restaurants I'd been to, places I'd traveled. One guy opened with, 'So, what's it like being rich?' Another asked if I could get him a job at my company. They saw the truth in the profile, but they still couldn't see past what they expected me to be." "I'm sorry." "Don't be." It clarified something. Isabella paused, seeming to gather courage. "I'd like to take you to dinner." Daniel's brain short-circuited. "I'm sorry, what?" "Dinner, as a thank you for helping with the profile." "That's not necessary." "I know it's not necessary. I'm asking anyway." Isabella's jaw set in a way that suggested she was used to getting what she wanted, but her eyes held something closer to hope than expectation. "1 meal? Nothing complicated. There's a Thai place in West Loop that's supposed to be excellent. Tomorrow night, 7:30? Daniel's first instinct was to say no. Emma had school the next day, which meant homework and bath time, and the careful routine that kept their lives running smoothly. His second instinct was also no, because Isabella Laurent didn't invite data analysts to dinner unless something was wrong with the universe. But there was something in her expression that made him hesitate, a vulnerability that reminded him of the late-night conversation in his office. She was asking not as his boss, but as someone who'd shown him an unguarded moment and was now hoping that trust wouldn't be thrown back in her face. "I need to arrange childcare," he heard himself say. "Of course. If tomorrow doesn't work, we can—" "Tomorrow works. 7:30. Isabella's entire posture shifted, tension releasing from her shoulders. "Good. Great. I'll text you the address." "You don't have my number." "I'm a billionaire, Daniel. I have everyone's number." She said it with a slight smile that suggested she was mostly joking. Mostly. "But I'll have my assistant send it through official channels if that's more comfortable." "That's fine." Isabella nodded, picked up her coffee, and headed toward the door. But she paused at the threshold and turned back. "This isn't a business dinner," she said. "Just so we're clear, this is 2 people having a meal and a conversation. Nothing more complicated than that." "Okay." "And Daniel, wear whatever you'd normally wear. Don't try to dress up for me. I spend all day with people pretending to be impressive. I'd rather see something real." Then she was gone, leaving Daniel alone with his coffee and the growing realization that his carefully controlled life was becoming significantly less controlled. Daniel spent the next 24 hours trying not to overthink things. He failed spectacularly. He almost canceled twice. Once in the morning, when he realized he had nothing appropriate to wear. Once in the afternoon, when Emma asked why he seemed distracted and he couldn't figure out how to explain that her father was having dinner with a billionaire without making it sound like a bigger deal than it was. At 7 o'clock, he dropped Emma at his neighbor Rachel's apartment. Rachel was 63, retired, and took genuine pleasure in watching Emma whenever Daniel needed help. She asked 0 questions, just handed Emma a cookie, and shooed Daniel out the door with instructions to have fun for once in your life. The restaurant was small, tucked between a bookstore and a vintage clothing shop. Nothing fancy, just red-painted walls covered in photographs, mismatched furniture, and the smell of basil and lemongrass thick enough to taste. Daniel spotted Isabella immediately. She was sitting at a corner table wearing jeans and a simple black sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked younger like this, softer, and when she saw him and smiled, Daniel felt something in his chest tighten uncomfortably. "You came," she said as he approached. "You doubted I would?" "Little bit, yeah." Isabella gestured to the seat across from her. "I thought you might decide this was too weird and bail." "I considered it." Daniel sat down, suddenly hyper-aware of how out of place he felt. Not because of the restaurant, which was casual and welcoming, but because he couldn't remember the last time he'd sat across from someone like this. Someone who wasn't Emma, or a coworker, or a parent from Emma's school asking about volunteer schedules. "I appreciate your honesty," Isabella said. A waiter appeared with menus and water. Isabella ordered wine without looking at the price. A small gesture that reminded Daniel exactly who she was and why this entire situation felt surreal. But then she handed him the menu and said, "The Panang curry is insane here, and the spring rolls. Actually, everything's good. I'm useless at recommendations." "You come here often?" "Used to. When I first moved to Chicago, this was close to my apartment. I'd work late and come here because it was open till midnight, and the owner never made me feel weird about eating alone." Isabella took a sip of water. "Then I bought the penthouse downtown and it got harder to make the trip, but I still think about their green papaya salad like once a week." They ordered too much food, curry and spring rolls and sauté and spicy noodles that made Daniel's eyes water. Isabella laughed at his reaction, then flagged down the waiter for extra napkins and ice water. They talked about food and neighborhoods and the weird intersection of ambition and exhaustion that came with living in a city that never quite slowed down. It was easy, Daniel realized with some surprise. Easier than he'd expected. Isabella asked questions and actually listened to the answers. She told stories about her early days working 60-hour weeks and surviving on vending machine coffee. She made self-deprecating jokes about her complete inability to navigate normal life. How she'd once tried to buy groceries and forgot that stores didn't deliver them pre-cooked. "Wait," Daniel said, laughing. "You bought ingredients for pasta and then realized you had no idea what to do with them." "I called my assistant at 9 p.m. and asked how long it takes to boil noodles. She quit the next day. Can't say I blame her." "That's genuinely impressive." "That's genuinely pathetic," Isabella corrected, but she was smiling. "I can negotiate billion-dollar deals, but I can't make spaghetti. My life is very backwards." "Everyone has gaps. I can't change my car's oil. I once put diesel in my gas tank because I wasn't paying attention." "How is that possible?" "Exhaustion, distraction, single-parent brain. Take your pick." Isabella's expression softened. "How long have you been doing it alone?" Daniel took a breath. He didn't talk about this often. Most people got uncomfortable when he explained, or they launched into advice he hadn't asked for. 3 years. Emma was 5. Her mom, Claire, she left one morning and just never came back. No fight, no warning. She left a note saying she couldn't do it anymore. She sent divorce papers 6 weeks later from somewhere in Oregon. I haven't heard from her since. That's... Isabella stopped, seeming to search for words that didn't sound hollow. "That's unimaginably hard." "It was. It is. But Emma's the best thing that ever happened to me, so I just keep showing up." "Does she ask about her mom?" "Sometimes. I tell her the truth, that her mom wasn't ready to be a parent, but that doesn't mean Emma did anything wrong. I don't know if that's the right answer. I don't know if there is a right answer." Isabella was quiet for a moment, turning her wine glass between her fingers. "My mother left when I was 12. different circumstances. She didn't leave my father, just me. Sent me to boarding school and never really looked back. I used to think there was something I could have done differently, some way I could have been less difficult or more lovable. Took me years to understand that her leaving was about her, not me. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me self-reliance, probably made me who I am. Isabella's smile was thin. Though honestly, I'm not sure who I am half the time. Successful? Certainly. Lonely? Definitely. Somewhere in between those two things is probably the real answer. Daniel wanted to say something comforting, but nothing came to mind that didn't sound patronizing, so instead he just said, I get that. Do you? You seem like you have your life figured out. I absolutely don't. I work too much because I'm terrified of not having enough money if something goes wrong. I feel guilty constantly, guilty for working, guilty for not playing with Emma more, guilty for being tired, guilty for wanting 5 minutes of peace. I haven't been on a date in 3 years because the idea of explaining my life to someone new feels exhausting. I'm basically holding everything together with duct tape and hope. Isabella laughed. A real laugh, startled and genuine. That's the most honest thing anyone's said to me in months. You did say you wanted real. I did. I do. Isabella leaned forward slightly, her eyes intent. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why did you say yes to dinner? You could have brushed me off, claimed you were busy. Why come? Daniel considered the question. The honest answer felt too revealing, but Isabella had been honest with him. It seemed only fair to return the favor. Because when you asked, you looked like you actually hoped I'd say yes. Not like you expected it, not like you were just being polite, like it actually mattered. I don't know, it's been a long time since someone looked at me that way. Something shifted in Isabella's expression. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. I did hope you'd say yes. I've been thinking about you since that night in the office. About what you said about shoulders getting stronger. It felt true in a way most things people say don't feel true. Most people try to make hard things sound easier than they are. And you don't? What's the point? Hard things are hard. Pretending otherwise just makes people feel weak for struggling. Isabella was quiet for a long moment, studying him with an expression that made Daniel feel transparent. I like you, she said finally. That's probably inappropriate to say, but I'm saying it anyway. You're different than I expected. Different how? I don't know. Real. Solid. Like you know who you are even when things are difficult. Isabella paused. Most people I meet are performing some version of themselves. You're just you. Daniel felt heat rise in his face. I think you're giving me too much credit. I don't think I am. The waiter appeared to clear their plates, breaking the moment. Isabella ordered dessert, mango sticky rice, and insisted they split it. They talked about smaller things after that, safer things. Work and weather, and the city's eternal construction projects. But something had changed in the air between them, some acknowledgement that this was more than just dinner. When the check came, Isabella paid before Daniel could even reach for his wallet. He tried to protest, but she waved him off. Next time you can pay, she said. Next time? Is there going to be a next time? Daniel should have said no. Should have explained that this was nice but complicated, that their lives didn't make sense together, that he had a daughter to think about and couldn't just dive into something uncertain. But Isabella was looking at him with those dark eyes, hopeful and guarded at once, and he found himself saying, Yeah, I'd like that. Her smile was worth the risk. They walked out together into the cool evening air. The street was quieter now, just a few people passing by, the city settling into its nighttime rhythm. Isabella pulled a car key from her bag. Not a driver, Daniel noted, just her, and turned to face him. Thank you for coming, she said. I know this was probably strange. It was, but good strange. Good strange is my favorite kind. Isabella hesitated, then reached out and squeezed his hand briefly. Her fingers were warm. Drive safe, okay? And tell Emma I said hi, even though she doesn't know who I am. I will. Daniel watched her walk to her car, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than he'd make in 5 years, and pull away into traffic. He stood there for a moment longer, trying to process what had just happened. His phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. Emma's asleep on my couch. Take your time. Another buzz. An unknown number. This is Isabella, in case you need to cancel next time, or just want to talk. No pressure either way. Daniel saved the number, climbed into his 10-year-old Honda, and drove home through the quiet streets. His life was still complicated. Emma still needed him. Work was still demanding. Nothing had actually changed. But something felt different anyway. Something felt possible. The next 2 weeks fell into a pattern Daniel hadn't anticipated and couldn't quite name. It started small. A text from Isabella on Wednesday asking if he'd tried the new coffee shop on Madison. He hadn't, so she sent him a gift card with a note that said, "Consider it market research for your caffeine addiction." Thursday, she forwarded him an article about parenting and screen time with the message, "Thought of you." No idea if this is helpful or just more noise. Friday evening, his phone rang while he was helping Emma with her math homework. "Is this a bad time?" Isabella asked when he answered. "I'm in the middle of explaining why fractions are important to an 8-year-old who thinks they're a government conspiracy." Emma looked up from her worksheet. "They are, Dad. Nobody uses them in real life." "I use them every day," Daniel said. "You're weird." Isabella's laugh came through the phone, warm and unguarded. "She's got a point. When was the last time you needed to know what 3/8 of something was?" "You're not helping." "I'm never helpful. That's my brand." Isabella paused. "I was calling to see if you wanted to get lunch tomorrow, but if you're busy—" "I'm not busy." The words came out too quickly. Emma raised her eyebrows at him, suddenly very interested in his conversation. "I mean, I should check my schedule, but I think I'm free." "You just said you're not busy." "Right, yes. Lunch sounds good. Noon? There's a sandwich place near your office that supposedly has the best banh mi in the city. I'll be there." After he hung up, Emma stared at him with an expression far too knowing for a second grader. "Who was that?" "Someone from work." "You smiled weird." "I did not smile weird." "You totally did. Your face got all soft and dopey." "Dopey?" Daniel reached over and ruffled her hair, which she hated and therefore did frequently. "You're dopey." "Dad, stop." Emma squirmed away, laughing. "But seriously, who is she?" "How do you know it's a she?" "Because you don't smile dopey at Jerry from security." Daniel sighed. "Her name is Isabella. She's an executive at the company. We're just friends." "Do friends make you smile dopey?" "Finish your fractions." "I knew it," Emma said, grinning triumphantly. "Dad has a girlfriend." "I absolutely do not have a girlfriend." "But you want one." Daniel opened his mouth to argue, then closed it again. The honest answer was complicated. Yes, Isabella made him feel things he hadn't felt in years, things he'd carefully packed away after Claire left because hope felt dangerous when you were barely keeping your head above water. But wanting something and being ready for it were different animals entirely. "I want you to finish your homework so we can watch a movie before bed," he said finally. Emma rolled her eyes but returned to her worksheet. Daniel pretended to grade papers while actually thinking about lunch tomorrow, and what it meant that Isabella kept reaching out, and whether he was reading too much into simple kindness. His phone buzzed again. "Isabella. Sorry, I just realized noon might not work with your schedule. We can do another day if that's better." Daniel typed back, "Noon is perfect." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, "Good. I've been thinking about Vietnamese food all week, and I blame you." "How is that my fault?" "You mentioned pho last time we talked. Now I can't stop craving it." "I have that effect on people. I'm basically a walking restaurant advertisement." Among other things. Daniel stared at that message for longer than he should have, trying to decode what "among other things" meant. Before he could formulate a response, another text came through. "See you tomorrow. Sleep well." He didn't sleep well. He lay awake thinking about lunch and Isabella and the strange territory they were navigating. It wasn't dating, exactly. They hadn't called it that. But it wasn't just friendship either. It existed in some undefined space that felt both thrilling and terrifying. The next morning, Daniel spent an embarrassing amount of time deciding what to wear. Nothing too formal. Isabella had specifically said she liked him normal, but not so casual that he looked like he didn't care. He settled on dark jeans and a blue button-down, then changed his mind twice before Emma yelled at him that they were going to be late for school. You look nice, she said as they walked to the bus stop. Thanks. Is this for your not girlfriend? Emma. I'm just saying, you usually wear the same 3 shirts on rotation. Today you're all fancy. This is not fancy, this is regular clothes. Sure, Dad. Emma boarded the bus, turning back to wave at him through the window with an exaggerated wink that made the other parent stare. Daniel spent the morning trying to focus on work and failing spectacularly. At 11:30, he gave up and headed to the bathroom to check his reflection, which was ridiculous because Isabella had already seen him at his most ordinary. At 11:45, he left the building and walked the 3 blocks to the restaurant, arriving exactly at noon. Isabella was already there, sitting at a window table with 2 iced teas and a nervous expression that softened into relief when she saw him. You came, she said. Why does everyone keep saying that like they expect me to bail? Because most people bail on me eventually. She said it lightly, but Daniel caught the edge underneath. Occupational hazard of being intense. I don't think you're intense. You're either lying or you haven't been paying attention. I think you're focused. There's a difference. Isabella smiled, something genuine and unguarded. See, that's why I like you. You reframe things in ways that make them sound less exhausting. They ordered banh mi for both of them, plus summer rolls and Vietnamese coffee that came sweet and strong enough to make Daniel's teeth ache. Isabella ate like someone who'd forgotten to have breakfast, which Daniel suspected was exactly what had happened. Busy morning? He asked. Disaster morning. One of our clients decided they wanted to completely overhaul their campaign 3 weeks before launch. I spent 2 hours on a conference call explaining why that's both impossible and stupid, but in diplomatic language that wouldn't make them pull their contract. Did it work? Mostly. They're still moving forward, but now they're mad at me for being right. Isabella took a long drink of her tea. Sometimes I think about what it would be like to have a job where people just did reasonable things and said thank you. That job doesn't exist. Probably not. She picked at her sandwich, then looked up at him. Can I ask you something personal? Sure. Do you ever regret it? Becoming a father so young, giving up whatever else you might have done? The question should have felt invasive, but Isabella asked it with genuine curiosity rather than judgment. Daniel thought about it while he chewed, trying to find an answer that was honest without being depressing. I don't regret Emma, he said finally, but I regret not being better prepared. I thought I was ready. Claire and I had been together since college. We had plans. It all seemed like the logical next step. Then Emma was born and nothing was logical anymore. Claire started pulling away almost immediately. I kept thinking if I just worked harder, made more money, was more supportive, she'd come back to us. But you can't fix someone else's unhappiness, no matter how hard you try. That's a hard lesson. The hardest. Daniel met her eyes. Why do you ask? Isabella was quiet for a moment, tracing patterns in the condensation on her glass. I almost got married once. 4 years ago. His name was Marcus. Investment banker, Princeton grad, came from old money. My mother loved him, which should have been my first warning sign. Everything looked perfect on paper. We wanted the same things. We moved in the same circles. We never fought because we were both too busy to disagree about anything meaningful. What happened? I woke up one morning 6 weeks before the wedding and realized I didn't love him. Not really. I loved the idea of him, the life we were supposed to have together. But when I imagined 50 years of polite dinner conversations and separate bedrooms and charity galas where we'd smile for cameras and barely talk in the car ride home, I couldn't breathe. Isabella's hands tightened around her glass. So I ended it, called off the wedding, moved out of his penthouse, spent the next year being uninvited from every social event because his family has more influence than mine, and they made sure everyone knew I was the villain. That must have been brutal. It was, but it taught me something important. Isabella looked directly at him, her eyes intense. I learned that you can't build a real life on paper. You can't marry a resume. Love isn't a business deal where you negotiate terms and sign contracts. It's supposed to be messy and inconvenient and real. And I'd rather be alone than settle for something that looks right but feels empty. Daniel felt something shift in his chest. Is that what you meant when you said you wanted something real? Yes? Exactly that. Isabella leaned forward slightly. I spend every day in a world where everything is strategy and optics and calculated risk. I make decisions that affect thousands of people, and I do it well because I'm good at seeing patterns, at predicting outcomes. But you can't predict people. You can't strategize your way into connection. And I'm so tired of trying. So what do you want instead? Honestly, I have no idea. I just know I want to stop performing. I want to be around someone who sees me, not the version of me that's useful or impressive, someone who doesn't need me to be anything other than what I am. She paused, looking almost embarrassed. Sorry, that was intense, see? I told you. It wasn't intense, it was honest. Same thing, usually. Not to me. Isabella studied him for a long moment, something shifting in her expression. You're very easy to talk to. Has anyone ever told you that? Not recently. Well, you are. I've told you more in 2 conversations than I've told most people in years. She picked up her sandwich, then set it down again without taking a bite. Can I ask you something else? Go ahead. What are we doing here? The question hung between them, sharp and unavoidable. Daniel had been wondering the same thing but hadn't found the courage to ask. I don't know, he admitted, but I like it. Whatever it is. So do I. But I need to know if we're on the same page. Isabella's voice was careful now, measured. Because I like you, Daniel. More than I probably should given that we barely know each other. And I don't do casual well. I'm either all in or I'm out. So if this is just friendly lunches and occasional texts, that's fine. But if it's something else, I need to know before I get more invested. Daniel's heart was beating too fast. This was the moment where he should pull back, explain about Emma and complications, and how he couldn't afford to take risks with his carefully balanced life. The smart thing would be to keep this light, uncomplicated. But Isabella was looking at him with those dark eyes, vulnerable in a way he suspected she rarely allowed herself to be, and he found himself saying, I want it to be something else. Yeah? Yeah. I'm terrified, and I have no idea how to make this work with my life. But yes, I want this to be more than just lunches. Isabella's smile was incandescent. Okay then. Okay? Okay. We'll figure out the logistics, but I needed to know we wanted the same thing. She picked up her sandwich again, taking a real bite this time. For the record, I'm terrified too. I'm good at business, but I'm terrible at this. I'll probably mess it up in spectacular ways. So will I. Then we'll mess it up together. They finished lunch talking about smaller things. Emma's hatred of fractions, Isabella's disastrous attempt to learn tennis, the construction project that had been blocking Daniel's commute for 6 months. But something had fundamentally shifted. They weren't just 2 people sharing a meal anymore. They were 2 people choosing to step into uncertainty together. When they walked out into the afternoon sun, Isabella turned to him and said, I want to meet her. Emma, if that's okay. Not yet. Not until you're ready. But eventually. Daniel's throat tightened. That's a big step. I know. But if we're doing this, I need to understand your whole life, and she's the most important part of it. She is. Then I want to know her. Isabella squeezed his hand briefly. No pressure on timing, just when it feels right. Daniel nodded, unable to speak around the emotion suddenly lodged in his chest. Isabella seemed to understand. She smiled, waved, and headed back toward her office, leaving Daniel standing on the sidewalk trying to process what had just happened. His phone buzzed. Emma's school. Reminder, parent-teacher conferences next Thursday. Another buzz. Isabella. Thank you for lunch and for being brave enough to say yes. Daniel typed back, thank you for asking. He walked back to work in a daze, barely noticing the traffic or the crowds. Something fundamental had changed in his life. Some door had opened that he'd kept carefully locked for 3 years. It was terrifying. It was exhilarating. It was real. That evening, after Emma was asleep, Daniel sat on his small balcony with a beer and his phone. He scrolled through his messages with Isabella, dozens of them now, accumulating over weeks. Some were funny, some were mundane, some were surprisingly deep. Together, they told the story of 2 people carefully, cautiously, choosing to know each other. His phone rang. Isabella. Hi, he said. Hi, I know it's late, but I couldn't sleep and I wanted to hear your voice. Something warm spread through Daniel's chest. What are you thinking about? Tomorrow, next week. How strange it is that a month ago we barely knew each other and now I'm counting hours until I see you again. Isabella paused. Is that weird? If it is, we're both weird. Good. I like being weird with you. Her voice softened. Tell me something. Something real. Something you don't usually share. Daniel thought for a moment, watching the city lights flicker below. Sometimes late at night, after Emma's asleep, I sit exactly where I am right now, and I feel so lonely it physically hurts. Not because I don't have people in my life. I do. But because I'm always performing for everyone. Being the good dad, the reliable employee, the guy who has it together. And there's no one I can just stop with. No one who lets me be tired or uncertain or afraid. You can stop with me, Isabella said quietly. I don't need you to have it together. What about you? What's your real thing? I'm afraid that I'm fundamentally broken, Isabella said, her voice barely above a whisper. That I'm too ambitious or too cold or too much, and that eventually you'll realize I'm not worth the effort. Everyone always does. I don't think you're broken. You don't know me well enough yet. Maybe, but I know enough to know that you're brave enough to be honest, which is more than most people manage. Daniel took a breath. I'm afraid too. I'm afraid of screwing this up, of letting Emma down, of not being enough. But I'm more afraid of not trying. Then we try, Isabella said. And when we mess up, because we will, we figure it out together. Deal. They talked for another hour about nothing important. Movies they'd seen, books they'd read, the weird neighbor who collected garden gnomes. When they finally hung up, Daniel felt lighter than he had in years. The next week was a blur of work and parenting and stolen moments with Isabella. Coffee on Tuesday before work, a quick lunch on Wednesday. Thursday evening, after Emma's parent-teacher conference, Daniel came home to find a package on his doorstep. Inside was a children's book about fractions, with a note from Isabella. For the conspiracy theorist, maybe this will help convince her fractions are real. Emma loved it. She made Daniel read it 3 times before bed, then insisted on texting Isabella a thank you note that mostly consisted of emojis and the words, "Fractions are still dumb, but the book is cool." Isabella's response came immediately. I like her already. Friday night, Isabella invited Daniel to her apartment. Not for anything dramatic, just dinner, she said. A chance to see her space, to talk without the time constraints of lunch breaks or work schedules. Daniel arranged for Rachel to keep Emma overnight, which Rachel agreed to with an enthusiasm that suggested Emma had told her about Dad's not girlfriend. Isabella's building was downtown, all glass and steel, and a doorman who looked at Daniel like he was delivering takeout. The elevator required a key card to access the penthouse level. When the doors opened directly into her apartment, Daniel understood for the first time the scale of difference between their worlds. The space was enormous, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist furniture that looked like museum pieces, art on the walls that was probably worth more than Daniel's entire net worth. It was beautiful and impressive and deeply impersonal, like a hotel suite or a magazine spread. Isabella emerged from the kitchen wearing jeans and a sweater, her hair in a messy bun, her feet bare. The contrast between her and her surroundings was jarring. I know, she said, reading his expression. It's ridiculous. I bought it because my financial advisor said it was a good investment. And then I hired a decorator because I had no idea what to do with this much space. I've lived here 2 years and it still doesn't feel like mine. It's impressive. It's empty. Isabella gestured toward the kitchen. Come on, I'm attempting to cook, which means I need supervision before I burn something. The kitchen was massive and gleaming, full of appliances that looked unused. Isabella had ingredients spread across the counter, vegetables and rice and chicken and what appeared to be 3 different kinds of soy sauce. I'm making stir-fry, she announced, or attempting to. I watched 4 YouTube videos and I'm reasonably confident I won't give us food poisoning. You didn't have to cook. I wanted to. I'm tired of always going to restaurants, always being in public. I wanted something private. She handed him a beer from the fridge. Plus, I figured if it's terrible, at least we'll have a good story. Daniel sat at the counter and watched Isabella cook. She was charmingly incompetent, cutting vegetables in uneven chunks, nearly dropping the pan twice, setting off the smoke alarm when she turned the heat too high. But she laughed at herself, didn't get frustrated, and when she finally plated the food, it looked surprisingly edible. They ate at her dining table, which seated 12 but felt intimate with just the two of them. The food was actually good, not restaurant quality, but honest and warm and made with obvious effort. "This is really nice," Daniel said. "The food or the company?" "Both, but mostly the company." Isabella smiled, something vulnerable in her expression. "Can I show you something?" She led him to a door off the living room that opened into what should have been a second bedroom, but instead was completely empty except for a yoga mat and some boxes stacked in the corner. "This is the saddest room in the apartment," Isabella said. "I've been here 2 years, and I still haven't figured out what to do with it." The decorator suggested a home office or a gym or a guest room, but none of those felt right, so it just sits here, empty, reminding me that I have all this space and no idea how to fill it. "What do you want it to be?" "I don't know, something real, something that matters." Isabella turned to look at him. "Everything in my life is so carefully designed. My apartment, my wardrobe, my schedule, even my relationships have always been strategic. People I'm supposed to know, events I'm supposed to attend. But nothing feels like mine. Nothing feels chosen. Except this," Daniel said, gesturing between them. "Except this," Isabella agreed. "You're the first thing in years that I've wanted just because I want it. Not because it makes sense or looks good or advances some goal. Just because you make me feel human." Daniel stepped closer, closing the distance between them. "You make me feel like I'm more than just Emma's dad. Like I'm a person with my own life and my own desires. I forgot what that felt like." Isabella reached up and touched his face, her fingers gentle. "Can I kiss you?" "Yes." The kiss was soft and careful, both of them tentative, learning each other. Isabella's hands found their way into his hair. Daniel's settled on her waist, pulling her closer. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathing hard. "I've wanted to do that for weeks," Isabella whispered. "Me too." They kissed again, less carefully this time. Eventually, they made their way back to the living room, curling up together on Isabella's enormous couch. They talked and kissed and talked some more, hours sliding past without notice. Isabella told him about her childhood in boarding schools, about building her first company at 25 and selling it at 27. Daniel told her about meeting Claire in college, about Emma's birth, about the morning he woke up and realized his wife was gone. "Do you still love her?" Isabella asked. "No. I'm angry at her sometimes for what she did to Emma, but I don't love her. I'm not sure I ever really did. We were just kids playing house, pretending we were ready for something neither of us understood. And now? Now I'm terrified, but also hopeful, which is new." Isabella curled closer against his chest. "I'm terrified too, but the good kind of terrified. Like standing at the edge of something that might be amazing or might be a disaster and choosing to jump anyway. That's a good metaphor." "I'm full of good metaphors. It's my only talent besides making money and ruining relationships." "You're not going to ruin this." "How do you know?" "Because you care enough to be scared. People who ruin things don't worry about ruining them." Isabella was quiet for a moment, then said, "Stay tonight. Not for anything. I just don't want you to leave yet." "Okay?" They fell asleep on the couch, tangled together, the city lights casting patterns across the ceiling. Daniel woke once in the middle of the night to find Isabella watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "What?" he whispered. "Nothing. Just memorizing this. In case it doesn't last." "It'll last." "Promise?" "I promise to try. That's all I need." When morning came, they made coffee in Isabella's pristine kitchen and ate toast standing at the counter. Daniel checked his phone to find 3 messages from Emma, all variations of "Are you coming home or did you die?" and one from Rachel saying everything was fine and to take his time. "I should go," he said reluctantly. "I know." Isabella walked him to the elevator. "But I'll see you Monday?" "Monday, and probably before then via excessive texting." "I'm counting on it." The elevator doors opened. Daniel stepped inside, then turned back. "Isabella?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for taking a chance on this." "Thank you for being worth the chance." The doors closed between them, but Daniel could still see her smile through the glass as the elevator descended. His phone buzzed immediately. "Isabella." "Already miss you. Is that pathetic?" "Daniel, If it is, we're both pathetic. Isabella. Good. I like being pathetic with you. Daniel stepped out onto the street, into the Saturday morning chaos of downtown Chicago, and felt something shift inside him. His life was still complicated. Emma still needed him. Work was still demanding. But for the first time in 3 years, he felt like he was moving forward instead of just surviving. And that made all the difference. 2 weeks later, Daniel stood in his bathroom at 6 in the morning, staring at his reflection and trying to calm the panic climbing up his throat. Today was the day Isabella would meet Emma. They'd planned it carefully, a casual Sunday brunch at a diner Emma loved, nothing formal or high pressure. Just 3 people eating pancakes and seeing if the worlds Daniel had been carefully keeping separate could actually coexist. "You look like you're going to throw up," Emma said from the doorway. Daniel turned to find his daughter already dressed, her hair in 2 lopsided braids she'd done herself. "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You've been weird all week." Emma crossed her arms, looking far too perceptive for 8 years old. "Is this about your not girlfriend finally becoming your actual girlfriend? When did you get so smart?" "I was born smart. You just don't pay attention." Emma walked into the bathroom and stood beside him, both of them looking at their reflections. "Are you scared I won't like her?" Daniel crouched down to Emma's level. "A little bit, yeah." "Why?" "Because you're the most important person in my life. And if you don't like her, if this doesn't work, then it's not going to happen, no matter how much I want it to." Emma considered this, her face serious. "What if I do like her?" "Then we figure it out from there." "Okay." Emma straightened his collar, which didn't need straightening. "But Dad, you're allowed to be happy too. You know that, right? You don't have to just be my dad. You can be other things." Daniel felt his throat tighten. "When did you get so wise?" "I told you, I was born this way." Emma grinned, breaking the moment. "Come on, I'm starving, and you promised pancakes." They drove to the diner in silence, Daniel's hands gripping the steering wheel too tightly. Emma played some game on her tablet, humming tunelessly. When they pulled into the parking lot, Daniel saw Isabella's car already there, the black sedan she drove herself, not the town car with the driver she used for work events. "That's her?" Emma asked, peering out the window. "That's her. Her car is fancy." "She has money, Em. I told you that." "Yeah, but I didn't think it was fancy car money." Emma unbuckled her seatbelt. "Does she know we drive a car that's older than me?" "She knows." "And she still likes you?" "Apparently." Emma nodded approvingly. "Okay, I like her already." Isabella was waiting in a booth near the back, wearing jeans and a simple sweater, her hair down around her shoulders. She looked more nervous than Daniel had ever seen her, hands fidgeting with her coffee cup, shoulders tight with tension. When she saw them approach, she stood up too quickly, nearly knocking over her water glass. "Hi," she said, her voice slightly too high. "You must be Emma." Emma looked her up and down with an intensity that made Daniel want to intervene. But before he could say anything, Emma stuck out her hand like she was in a business meeting. "Nice to meet you, Isabella. My dad talks about you a lot." Isabella shook Emma's hand solemnly. "He talks about you constantly. I feel like I already know you." "What did he say?" "That you hate fractions, love chocolate chip pancakes, and once convinced your teacher that dogs could be president if they were smart enough." Emma's eyes widened. "He told you about that?" "It's one of my favorite stories." Isabella sat back down, and Daniel and Emma slid into the booth across from her. "For what it's worth, I think you made excellent points. Politicians could learn a lot from dogs." "Right?" Emma leaned forward, suddenly animated. "Dogs are loyal and they don't lie, and they always try to make people happy. That's basically the opposite of most presidents." "Can't argue with that logic." Daniel watched them talk, feeling something in his chest unwind. Emma was leaning in, engaged in a way she rarely was with new adults. Isabella was matching her energy without being condescending, treating her like a person worth taking seriously. When the waitress came, Emma ordered chocolate chip pancakes without looking at the menu, and Isabella ordered the same thing. "Copycat," Emma said, but she was smiling. "They're clearly the superior pancake choice. I'm just following the expert's lead." Daniel ordered coffee and eggs, his appetite still too uncertain for anything heavier. He watched Isabella and Emma talk about school and books, and whether dogs or cats made better pets. Emma had strong opinions on all of it, and Isabella listened like each opinion was a revelation worth considering. Dad says you're really rich, Emma said suddenly, with the blunt honesty only children could manage. Daniel nearly choked on his coffee. Emma. What? You did say that? Isabella laughed, not offended. I do have money. Yes. Is that weird? Kind of. Dad's always worried about money. He thinks I don't notice, but I do. He checks the mail, and his face gets all tight when there are bills. Emma took a sip of her orange juice. So yeah, it's weird that you have a lot of money and you want to hang out with us. Emma, Daniel said again, mortified. But Isabella was looking at Emma with something like respect. Can I tell you something honest? Okay. Having money doesn't fix the things that actually matter. I have a huge apartment that feels empty. I can buy anything I want, but I don't have many people I actually want to spend time with. Your dad is one of the only people I've met in years who talks to me like I'm a person instead of a bank account or a business opportunity. So yeah, I have money. But what I really want is what you two have, people who actually care about each other. Emma considered this, her face serious. That's kind of sad. It is, yeah. But you have Dad now, so that's better. It is better, much better. Isabella glanced at Daniel, something soft in her expression. If that's okay with you. Emma looked between them, her expression calculating. Do you make him smile dopey? Emma, Daniel groaned, because he's been smiling dopey for weeks, and it's kind of annoying, but also kind of nice. Isabella grinned. I hope so. Does he make you smile dopey? Yeah, he does. Then I guess we're even. The pancakes arrived, enormous and covered in whipped cream and chocolate chips. Emma dug in immediately, getting syrup on her chin. Isabella ate more carefully, but with genuine enjoyment. Daniel picked at his eggs and watched his two favorite people get to know each other. So, do you have any kids? Emma asked around a mouthful of pancake. No, I never found the right person to have them with. Do you want kids? Emma, that's personal. It's okay, Isabella said. I used to think I didn't. I was too focused on work, too busy building my career. But lately I've been thinking maybe I do. Or maybe I just want a family, whatever that looks like. You can be part of ours, Emma said simply. If you want. We're small, but we're pretty good. Daniel felt his eyes burn. Isabella's expression crumpled slightly before she caught herself. I would really like that, Isabella said quietly. If your dad's okay with it. Dad? Emma turned to him expectantly. Yeah, Daniel managed. I'm okay with it. Emma nodded, satisfied, and returned to her pancakes. Isabella reached across the table and squeezed Daniel's hand briefly, her eyes bright with unshed tears. They finished breakfast talking about easier things, movies they'd seen, places they wanted to visit, Emma's upcoming school play where she'd been cast as a tree. A tree? Isabella asked. I have one line. The forest is alive with secrets. Emma delivered it with dramatic flair. Ms. Peterson says I bring depth to the role. I have no doubt. When's the performance? Next Friday at 7. I'll be there. Emma's entire face lit up. Really? Really? I wouldn't miss it. Isabella looked at Daniel. If that's okay? More than okay. After breakfast, they walked to the park across the street. Emma ran ahead to the playground while Daniel and Isabella followed at a slower pace. Isabella slipped her hand into his, their fingers interlacing naturally. She's incredible, Isabella said. You've done an amazing job with her. She makes it easy, most of the time. Still, raising a child alone, working full-time, making sure she feels loved and secure, that's not easy. You should give yourself more credit. Daniel watched Emma climb the jungle gym, fearless and confident. I'm terrified every day that I'm screwing it up, that she'll grow up and realize how many things I got wrong. She's not going to think that. She's going to remember that you showed up, that you cared, that you put her first. Isabella leaned against him slightly. That's what matters. They sat on a bench while Emma played, Daniel's arm around Isabella's shoulders, her head resting against his chest. Other families filled the park, couples with strollers, older kids playing soccer, grandparents pushing swings. For the first time in years, Daniel felt like he belonged to that community, not just as Emma's father, but as someone building his own life. I have to tell you something, Isabella said after a while. Daniel's stomach dropped at her tone. What? I got a job offer. Executive VP at a major firm in New York. They've been courting me for months, and they finally made an official offer yesterday. That's amazing. Congratulations. I haven't accepted yet. Why not? Isabella sat up, turning to face him. Because it would mean moving, leaving Chicago. Leaving you and Emma. She paused. Leaving this. Daniel's mind raced. That's a huge opportunity. You can't turn that down because of us. I can if I want to. It's my choice. Isabella, let me finish. She took his hands in hers. This is exactly the kind of job I've been working toward my entire career. More money, more influence, more everything I thought I wanted. And maybe 6 months ago I would have taken it without hesitation. But now... She looked toward the playground where Emma was hanging upside down from the monkey bars. Now I have something here that matters more than a title. You barely know us. I know enough. I know that for the first time in my life I wake up excited about something that isn't work. I know that your daughter just invited me to be part of her family over chocolate chip pancakes. I know that when I imagine my future, I see you in it. Isabella's grip on his hands tightened. I'm not saying I'm turning it down right now. I need to think about it. Really think about it. But I wanted you to know it's an option, that I'm considering staying. What if you regret it? What if you stay and 6 months from now you resent us for holding you back? What if I take it, and 6 months from now I regret leaving the only real thing I've ever had? Isabella countered. There's risk either way, Daniel. The question is which risk I want to take. Before Daniel could respond, Emma ran over, breathless and flushed. Can Isabella come to our apartment? I want to show her my room. Daniel looked at Isabella, who nodded. I'd love to see your room. They drove back in separate cars, Emma chattering the entire way about everything she wanted to show Isabella. Their apartment was modest. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that barely fit 2 people. Daniel suddenly saw it through Isabella's eyes and felt self-conscious about the worn furniture, the water stain on the ceiling they couldn't afford to fix, the general shabbiness of it all. But Isabella walked in and said, This is lovely. It feels like a home. Emma dragged her to the bedroom immediately, showing off her collection of books and stuffed animals and the solar system model they'd built together last month. Isabella examined everything with genuine interest, asking questions and admiring Emma's artwork covering the walls. This one's my favorite, Emma said, pointing to a crayon drawing of 3 stick figures. That's me, that's Dad, and that's you. Daniel hadn't seen that drawing before. Isabella looked at it for a long moment, her expression unreadable. When did you draw this? Isabella asked. Last week, after Dad told me you were coming to breakfast. Emma looked up at Isabella seriously. I wanted to see what we'd look like together. What do you think? I think we look good. Isabella crouched down to Emma's level. Can I tell you something? Sure. I've been offered a job in New York, a really good job, but it would mean moving away from here, from you and your dad. Isabella's voice was careful, honest. I haven't decided what to do yet. I wanted you to know because your opinion matters to me. Emma's face fell. You're leaving. I don't know yet. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Do you want to go? Part of me does. It's an amazing opportunity, but part of me wants to stay here, with the people who make me feel like I matter for who I am, not what I do. Emma thought about this, her face scrunched in concentration. My mom left. She said she couldn't do it anymore, and she just went away. Dad said it wasn't my fault, but sometimes I think maybe if I'd been better, she would have stayed. Emma, Daniel started, his heart breaking, but Isabella was already talking, her voice firm. Listen to me. Your mom leaving had nothing to do with you. Nothing. Sometimes adults make choices that hurt other people, but that's about their own struggles, not about the people they leave behind. You are smart and funny and kind and wonderful, and anyone who doesn't see that is missing out. Do you understand? Emma's eyes were shiny with tears. Do you see that? I absolutely see that. You're one of the best people I've ever met. Then don't leave, Emma said, her voice small. Please. I know that's selfish, but please don't go. Isabella pulled Emma into a hug, and Daniel watched his daughter cling to this woman they'd known for only a few weeks. When Isabella looked up at him, her eyes were wet too. "I need to think about this," Isabella said. "It's a big decision, but I promise I'll consider everything, okay?" Emma nodded against her shoulder. "Okay." They spent the rest of the afternoon together, the conversation lighter, but the weight of Isabella's decision hanging over everything. When Isabella finally left, she hugged Emma goodbye and kissed Daniel at the door, brief and sweet. "I'll call you later," she said. "Take your time. Think about what you need." "I will." She paused at the threshold. "Daniel?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for today, for letting me into your life. It means everything." After she left, Daniel found Emma on the couch, staring at nothing. He sat beside her and pulled her close. "You okay, kiddo?" "Is she going to leave like Mom did?" "I don't know, but if she does, it won't be because of you. It'll be because she chose her career, and that's valid too. Sometimes people have to make hard choices." "I don't want her to go." "Me neither." "But you'd let her? You wouldn't ask her to stay?" Daniel thought about how to answer honestly. "If I asked her to stay and she did, but part of her always wondered what she gave up, that would hurt worse than her leaving. Love isn't about holding people back. It's about wanting them to have what makes them whole, even if it's hard." "That sounds terrible." "It kind of is." Emma was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I really like her, Dad." "I really like her too." "She's different than I thought rich people would be." "How so?" "She's not mean or snobby. She listened to me like what I said mattered. And she didn't pretend to like things just to make me like her. She was just real." "She is real. That's what makes this so hard." That night, after Emma was asleep, Isabella called. Daniel answered immediately. "How are you?" he asked. "Confused, terrified, trying to figure out if I'm brave enough to choose something different than what I've always chosen." "What have you always chosen?" "Safety, success, things I can control and predict. This thing with you and Emma, I can't control it. I can't predict where it'll go. That should terrify me more than it does." "Does it terrify you?" "Yes, but not as much as the thought of walking away from it." Daniel's heart was beating too fast. "Isabella, I'm not making the decision tonight," she cut him off. "I need to sit with it, really think it through. But I wanted you to know that I'm considering things I've never considered before. That you and Emma have changed what's possible for me. You've changed what's possible for us, too." "Yeah?" "Yeah." Emma drew a picture of the three of us. She did it before breakfast, before she even met you. She was already making room for you in her life. Isabella's breath hitched. "That's a lot of pressure." "I know. I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Just give me time to figure this out. Take all the time you need." They talked for another hour about nothing important, both of them avoiding the real conversation. When they finally hung up, Daniel lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying not to think about what it would feel like if Isabella left. The next week was strange. Isabella was busy with work, dealing with conference calls and meetings about the New York position. They texted constantly but saw each other only once, for a quick coffee that felt charged with everything they weren't saying. "Have you decided?" Daniel asked. "Not yet. Soon. No pressure." "There's all the pressure, Daniel. I'm trying to choose between everything I've worked for and something I barely understand but can't imagine losing." "I know. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing. This isn't your fault. It's just hard." Friday came. Emma's school play. Daniel arrived early to get a good seat, but Isabella texted saying she'd be late, stuck in a meeting that ran over. Daniel saved her a seat, watching the door nervously as the lights dimmed. The play started. Emma stood perfectly still as her tree, waiting for her moment. Other kids delivered their lines with varying degrees of competence. The audience laughed in the right places, took videos on their phones. Then Emma spoke. "The forest is alive with secrets." She said it with such conviction, such dramatic weight, that several people laughed, but Daniel saw the pride on her face and felt his chest swell. The door at the back opened. Isabella slipped in, still in her work clothes, slightly breathless. She found Daniel's eyes across the room and smiled apologetically. He gestured to the seat he'd saved. She made her way over and sat down just as Emma's tree became part of the final group scene. "I made it," Isabella whispered. "You made it." They watched the rest of the play together. Isabella's hand finding his in the dark. When it ended and the kids took their bows, Emma scanned the audience and lit up when she saw Isabella. She waved enthusiastically, almost knocking over the kid beside her. Afterward, they met Emma in the hallway. She was still wearing her tree costume, brown felt and paper leaves. "You came!" Emma threw herself at Isabella, who caught her and spun her around. "I told you I would. You were fantastic. Very convincing tree." "Did you see how I said my line?" "I did. You brought real gravitas to it." "What's gravitas?" "It means you took it seriously and made other people take it seriously too. That's hard to do." Emma beamed. Other parents were gathering their kids, heading home. Daniel noticed a few curious looks in their direction, people wondering who Isabella was, why she was here. "Want to get ice cream?" Isabella asked. "To celebrate?" "Yes." Emma started to run off, then turned back. "Is that okay, Dad?" "More than okay." They piled into Isabella's car, Emma chattering about the play and who'd forgotten their lines and how the props had almost fallen over. They went to a place Emma loved, got enormous sundaes, sat in a corner booth while Emma described every detail of the performance. Eventually, Emma excused herself to the bathroom. Daniel and Isabella were left alone across from each other, ice cream melting between them. "I'm turning down the job," Isabella said. Daniel's heart stopped. "What?" "I'm turning it down. I called them this afternoon before the play. I told them I appreciate the offer, but I'm staying in Chicago." "Isabella, you can't make that decision because of us." "I'm not. I'm making it because of me." Isabella's voice was steady, certain. "I spent my whole life chasing the next big thing, the next promotion, the next achievement. And I was miserable. Not obviously, I was successful and admired and everything looked perfect from the outside, but I was empty. Then I met you and suddenly I had a reason to come home. Someone to talk to who actually listened. Someone who saw me, not my resume. But your career will survive. I'm good at what I do, Daniel. There will be other opportunities. But this, you and Emma, this life we're starting to build, this is rare. This is real. I'd be an idiot to walk away from it." "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Isabella reached across the table and took his hand. "I want this. I want school plays and Sunday brunches and your kid drawing pictures of us as a family. I want complicated and messy and real." Daniel felt tears burn his eyes. "I want that too." "Then let's do it. Let's actually do this." Emma returned from the bathroom and immediately sensed the changed energy. "What happened?" "Isabella's staying," Daniel said. "She's not moving to New York." Emma's face transformed. "Really?" "Really," Isabella confirmed. "If that's okay with you." "Are you kidding? That's amazing." Emma launched herself at Isabella again, nearly knocking over what was left of the sundaes. "This is the best day ever." They finished their ice cream in a bubble of joy, making plans for the following weekend, talking about what life would look like now that Isabella wasn't leaving. When they finally left, Emma insisted on holding both their hands as they walked to the car, swinging between them. "We look like a real family," Emma said happily. "We are a real family," Isabella replied. "Just a new kind." They dropped Emma and Daniel at their apartment. Emma hugged Isabella goodnight, making her promise to come over for dinner during the week. After Emma went inside, Daniel lingered by the car with Isabella. "Thank you," he said, "for choosing this, for choosing us. Thank you for being worth choosing." Isabella kissed him, slow and sweet. "This is just the beginning, you know. We'll probably screw things up. We'll definitely have hard days. This isn't a fairy tale." "I don't want a fairy tale. I want real." "Then real is what you'll get." Daniel watched her drive away, then went inside to find Emma already in her pajamas, grinning like she'd won the lottery. "Dad?" "Yeah, Em? I think we're going to be okay, the three of us. I think we're going to be really good." And standing in their small apartment, looking at his daughter's hopeful face, Daniel thought she might be right. The first real fight happened 3 weeks later, on a Tuesday evening that started ordinary and ended with Daniel sitting alone in his car, wondering if they'd just destroyed everything they'd been building. It began with something small. Isabella had texted during the day, asking if she could take Emma shopping for new school clothes. Daniel said yes without thinking much about it. When they returned that evening, Emma was carrying bags from stores Daniel had only seen from the outside, places with mannequins in the windows wearing outfits that cost more than his monthly grocery budget. "Look what Isabella got me." Emma burst through the door, pulling out shirt after shirt, each one nicer than anything in her closet. "And these jeans and these shoes and—" "Emma, slow down." Daniel looked at the pile accumulating on the couch, his stomach tightening. "How much did all this cost?" "I don't know. Isabella paid for everything." Isabella appeared in the doorway, looking pleased with herself. "I hope you don't mind. She needed a few things, and I saw some pieces that would look great on her." "A few things?" Daniel gestured at the mountain of clothes. "This is more than a few things. It's not that much. Just some basics and a couple nicer outfits for special occasions." "Isabella, can I talk to you in the kitchen?" Emma's smile faltered. "Dad? Kitchen, now!" Isabella followed him, her expression shifting from pleased to confused to defensive. Daniel closed the door and turned to face her, trying to keep his voice level. "You can't just buy her whatever you want." "Why not? She needed clothes." "She has clothes. We manage fine." "I wasn't saying you don't. I just wanted to get her some nice things. What's wrong with that?" Daniel ran his hand through his hair, frustration building. "What's wrong is that you didn't ask me first. You just decided to drop what's probably $1,000 on my kid without checking if that was okay. It was $700, and I can afford it. That's not the point. The point is you don't get to just swoop in and buy her love." Isabella's face went hard. "Is that what you think I'm doing?" "I don't know what you're doing, but Emma doesn't need designer clothes. She needs stability and consistency and a parent who makes decisions about her life." "I'm not trying to replace you, Daniel." "Aren't you? Because it sure feels like you're trying to prove you can give her things I can't." "That's not fair." "None of this is fair. You want to be part of our lives, but you don't understand what that actually means. It means checking in before making big decisions. It means respecting that I'm her parent, not you." Isabella's eyes flashed. "I know I'm not her parent. Trust me, everyone makes that very clear. I'm just the girlfriend who gets to exist on the periphery, never quite part of the family, but expected to care like I am." "That's not what I meant." "Isn't it? You want me involved, but not too involved. You want me to care about Emma, but not make decisions about her. You want me to be part of your life, but only in the ways that are comfortable for you." Isabella crossed her arms. "I'm trying my best here, Daniel. I've never done this before. I don't know what the rules are. The rule is you ask me before spending hundreds of dollars on my daughter." "Fine. I'm sorry. I should have asked." Isabella's voice was tight. "I was just trying to do something nice. I wanted Emma to have things that made her feel special." "She already feels special. She doesn't need expensive clothes to know she's valued." "Maybe not, but maybe it's nice for her to have them anyway. Maybe it's nice for her to walk into school wearing something new instead of hand-me-downs from her cousin. Did you think about that?" The words hit Daniel like a slap. "How dare you?" "I'm not judging you. I'm just saying that there's nothing wrong with letting people help, with accepting that I have resources that could make your lives easier. We don't need your money. I never said you did. But you won't let me do anything. I can't buy Emma clothes. I can't pay for dinner. I can't contribute in any meaningful way because you're so determined to prove you don't need help. Well, guess what? Nobody does everything alone, and pretending you have to is just pride. This isn't about pride. This is about Emma understanding that love isn't about what people can buy for her. Her mother left Isabella. She walked away, and I need Emma to know that the people who stay matter because they choose to be here, not because they have money to throw around." Isabella's expression softened slightly. "I know that, and I'm choosing to be here. The clothes have nothing to do with that." "Don't they? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're trying to fix us, like we're some charity project you can improve with the right investments. That's not what this is." "But then what is it?" "It's me wanting to give Emma something nice because I care about her. That's all. There's no ulterior motive. There's no agenda. I just wanted to see her smile." Daniel felt some of his anger deflate, but the hurt remained. "I need you to understand something. Emma's already had one parent who thought they could love her better with distance and money. I won't let her go through that again. I'm not Claire. I know, but you need to understand why this scares me. Emma got attached to you fast. Too fast. And if you leave, if this doesn't work out, she's going to be devastated. So when you make decisions about her without including me, it feels like you're treating her like she's yours when she's not. Isabella was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was steady but strained. I understand that I'm not her mother. I understand that I don't have rights here, that everything I do is at your discretion. But I need you to understand something too. I love that kid. I know it's fast and I know it's complicated, but I love her, and I love you. And when you shut me out and treat me like I'm just some outsider who doesn't get it, that hurts. I'm not shutting you out. You are. You won't let me help financially. You won't let me make decisions. You won't even let me buy her a few outfits without it becoming a referendum on my intentions. I'm trying to build a life with you, but you keep me at arm's length. Because I'm terrified, Daniel said, the words coming out raw. I'm terrified of letting you all the way in and then losing you. I'm terrified of Emma depending on you and then you deciding this is too hard. I'm terrified that I'm not enough, that eventually you'll realize you gave up too much for us. Isabella stepped closer. I chose this. I chose you and Emma over everything else. But you have to let me actually be part of it. You can't keep me in this holding pattern where I'm important but not too important, involved but not too involved. That's not sustainable. I know. So what do we do? Daniel leaned against the counter, exhausted. I don't know, but we need to figure out how to communicate better. We need to establish boundaries and expectations before something like this happens again. Agreed. Isabella paused. For what it's worth, I really am sorry. I should have asked you first. I got excited and I didn't think about how it would feel from your perspective. And I'm sorry for accusing you of trying to buy her love. I know that's not what you were doing. So we're okay? We're okay. But Isabella? Yeah? Next time, just ask. Please. Even if you think it's something small, just check with me first. I will, I promise. They stood in the kitchen, the tension slowly dissipating. From the living room, they could hear Emma humming, still going through her new clothes. Daniel looked at Isabella and saw the exhaustion on her face, the fear that maybe this fight had broken something irreparable. Come here, he said. Isabella stepped into his arms, and they stood there holding each other, both of them shaking slightly with leftover adrenaline. Daniel pressed his face into her hair and tried to remember that fights didn't mean failure. They just meant they were learning how to be together. This is hard, Isabella whispered. Yeah, but we're figuring it out. Are we? We're trying. That counts for something. They pulled apart and went back into the living room. Emma was sitting on the couch surrounded by clothes, looking worried. Are you guys fighting about me? She asked. Not about you, Daniel said, sitting beside her. Just figuring out how to work together better. Because of the clothes? Because I should have talked to your dad before buying so much, Isabella said, sitting on Emma's other side. That was my mistake. I'm sorry. Emma looked between them. Are you going to break up? No, they said simultaneously. Sometimes people who care about each other disagree, Daniel explained. That doesn't mean they stop caring. It just means they have to talk through it and find a solution. Mom used to fight with you and then she left. Daniel's chest tightened. Your mom left for a lot of reasons that had nothing to do with fighting. Isabella and I are different. We're committed to working things out. Promise? Promise, Isabella said. Fighting is normal. It doesn't mean we're giving up. Emma nodded slowly, then held up a blue sweater. Can I keep this one at least? It's really soft. Daniel laughed despite himself. You can keep all of them. But next time Isabella wants to take you shopping, she's going to talk to me first. Deal? Deal. That night, after Emma was asleep, Isabella stayed over for the first time. They lay in Daniel's bed, the streetlight casting patterns on the ceiling, both of them processing the evening. I meant what I said, Isabella murmured. I love her, and you. This isn't some temporary thing for me. I know. I'm sorry I freaked out. You had valid reasons to freak out. I overstepped. Isabella rolled onto her side to face him. I'm going to mess up again. Probably a lot. I don't have a template for this. Neither do I. We're making it up as we go. That's terrifying. It is, but also kind of exciting. Isabella traced patterns on his chest. Tell me about Claire. Really tell me. I need to understand what I'm walking into. Daniel was quiet for a moment, gathering his thoughts. We met freshman year of college. She was beautiful and spontaneous, and everything I wasn't. I was this serious, anxious kid trying to prove I deserved to be there. She was free in ways I didn't know how to be. We got married at 23 because it seemed like the next logical step. Emma came a year later. Were you happy? I thought so, but looking back, I think we were both just playing roles. I was the provider. She was the free spirit who'd been tamed by domesticity. Except she hadn't been tamed at all. She hated being a mother. She loved Emma, but she hated everything that came with it. The responsibility, the routine, the way her whole identity became about this tiny person who needed her constantly. And you? I loved it. Not the exhaustion or the stress, but the purpose. For the first time in my life, I mattered to someone unconditionally. Emma needed me, and I needed to be needed. Daniel paused. That probably sounds pathetic. It sounds human. But Claire started pulling away when Emma was about 3, working longer hours, going out more, being physically present but emotionally absent. We'd fight about it, and she'd promised to do better, but nothing changed. Then one morning, I woke up and she was gone. Just a note saying she couldn't do it anymore, that she was sorry, that we'd be better off without her. Did she ever explain why? Not really. The divorce papers came from a lawyer. She signed away all parental rights without a fight. I heard through mutual friends that she moved to Portland, started over. Sometimes I check her social media and see her living this bohemian life, traveling, creating art, looking happy in ways she never looked with us. Isabella was quiet. Do you still love her? No, I'm angry at her for what she did to Emma. I'm angry that she gets to just walk away and start fresh while we deal with the aftermath. But I don't love her. I'm not sure I ever really did. What do you love? You mean besides Emma? Yeah. Daniel thought about it. Quiet mornings, the way Emma laughs when something surprises her, good coffee, books that make me think, feeling useful, knowing I did something that mattered, even if it's small. He turned to look at Isabella. You. I love you. I know it's fast and maybe I shouldn't say it yet, but I do. Isabella's eyes shone in the dim light. I love you too. I've been wanting to say it for weeks, but I didn't want to scare you. I'm already scared. Might as well be scared and honest. That's my new favorite philosophy. Isabella kissed him, slow and deep. We're going to be okay, right? I think so. As long as we keep talking, keep being honest, keep showing up even when it's hard. I can do that. So can I. They fell asleep tangled together, and for the first time since Claire left, Daniel didn't feel alone in his own bed. The weeks that followed established a new rhythm. Isabella came over for dinner twice a week. Emma spent Saturdays with both of them, usually doing something simple, parks or museums or just watching movies. Isabella learned Emma's routines, her preferences, the way she needed exactly 3 bedtime stories and got cranky if she didn't eat by 6. They fought again, of course, about schedules and expectations and the 1,000 small negotiations required to blend lives. But each fight ended with conversation, with compromise, with the understanding that they were building something worth the difficulty. One evening, about 2 months after Isabella had decided to stay, Daniel came home from work to find her and Emma in the kitchen, attempting to make dinner. The kitchen was a disaster. Flour on every surface, something burning in the oven, Emma wearing more batter than the bowl contained. What's happening here? Daniel asked, trying not to laugh. We're making lasagna, Emma announced. Isabella found a recipe online, and we're following it exactly. Except we forgot to set a timer, and I think the garlic bread might be charcoal now, Isabella added, opening the oven to reveal blackened bread that was definitely beyond saving. I see. And the flour? That was an accident. The bag exploded. It didn't explode. You opened it upside down, Emma corrected. Same result. Daniel looked at the chaos, at Emma's flour-covered face and Isabella's sheepish expression, and felt something settle in his chest. This was what he'd been afraid to hope for. Not perfection, but presence. Not someone who swept in and fixed everything, but someone who showed up and tried, even when it was messy. How can I help? He asked. Order pizza? Isabella suggested. I think we're beyond saving this. We can save it, Emma insisted. We just need to start over on the bread and maybe fix the sauce because it's kind of lumpy. The sauce is extremely lumpy, Isabella agreed. I may have added the cheese too early. They salvaged what they could and ordered pizza to supplement. They ate dinner surrounded by the evidence of their culinary disaster, laughing about the explosion and the burnt bread and Isabella's complete inability to measure ingredients properly. You're terrible at cooking, Emma said, but she was smiling. I really am. It's a gift. Next time we should just order food. Or your dad can cook and we can watch. Where's the fun in that? Daniel asked. The fun is in not destroying the kitchen, Isabella pointed out. After dinner, while Daniel cleaned up, Isabella helped Emma with homework at the kitchen table. He watched them work through math problems, Isabella patient when Emma got frustrated, Emma determined to prove she understood even when she clearly didn't. What's 7 times 8? Isabella asked. 56. That one's easy. What about 12 times 12? Emma groaned. That's not fair. We haven't learned that yet. But you can figure it out. What's 10 times 12? 120. Good. So what's 2 more 12s? Emma worked it out on paper. 144? Exactly. See? You're smarter than you think. Dad says that too. Your dad's right. About most things. Isabella glanced over at Daniel. Except his taste in beer. That's questionable. Hey, Daniel protested. My beer is perfectly fine. Your beer tastes like sadness and regret. That's what makes it authentic, Emma giggled. You guys are weird. We're not weird. We're quirky, Isabella said. Same thing. Later, after Emma was in bed, Daniel and Isabella sat on the couch with wine, exhausted and content. Isabella had flour in her hair. Daniel had sauce on his shirt. The kitchen still needed serious cleaning. None of it mattered. I like this, Isabella said quietly. The ordinary stuff, burnt garlic bread and homework help in just being here. No regrets about the New York job? Not even close. That life would have been impressive, but this life is real. I know which one I'd choose every time. Even when we fight? Especially when we fight. It means we care enough to work through things instead of just walking away. Isabella shifted to rest her head on his shoulder. I never had that before. People always left at the first sign of difficulty. Or I left. But this feels different. It is different. We're different. Promise me something? What? Promise that if this gets hard, and it will get hard, you won't shut me out. You'll let me in, let me help, let me be part of finding solutions. I promise. As long as you promise to ask before making big decisions about Emma. Deal. Isabella lifted her head to look at him. I have something to tell you. Daniel's stomach tightened. That sounds ominous. It's not bad. At least I hope it's not bad. Isabella took a breath. I've been thinking about what I want my life to look like. Not just with you and Emma, but generally. And I realized I don't want to keep climbing the corporate ladder. I don't want to spend 60 hours a week in meetings and conference calls. I want something different. What do you want? I want to start my own consulting firm, something small, focused on helping businesses with ethical marketing strategies. I'd work from home mostly, set my own hours, choose my own clients. It would mean less money, significantly less, but more time, more flexibility, more life outside of work. Daniel processed this. That's a big change. I know. And I wanted to tell you before I made any decisions because this affects you too. If we're building a future together, you should have input. Do you want to do it? I think so. I've been researching for weeks. I have enough saved to float me through the startup phase. I have contacts who'd likely become clients. The numbers work. The only question is whether I'm brave enough to actually do it. You turned down your dream job to stay here with me and Emma. I think you're brave enough for anything. Isabella smiled. See, this is why I love you. You make scary things sound possible. They are possible, and I think you should do it, not just for us, but for you. You deserve to build something you actually care about. You really think so? I really think so. Isabella kissed him, long and sweet and full of promise. Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm giving notice next week. I'm proud of you. I'm terrified. That means you're doing something worth doing. They sat in the quiet, the city humming beyond the windows, both of them aware that something significant had shifted. They weren't just dating anymore, weren't just testing whether this could work. They were building a real life together, making decisions that affected their shared future. Daniel? Isabella said after a while. Yeah? Thank you. For what? For taking a chance on me, for letting me into your life even though it was scary, for giving me a reason to want something more than success. She paused. You and Emma, you saved me from a life that looked impressive but felt empty. You saved us too. From being stuck, from thinking this was all life could be. You reminded me that there's more than just surviving. So we saved each other. I think we did. Isabella settled back against him, her fingers interlaced with his. They sat like that for a long time, both of them tired, both of them hopeful, both of them choosing each other again and again in 1,000 small ways that added up to something like love. In the morning, Daniel would wake up and make breakfast. Emma would complain about having to go to school. Isabella would leave for work and text him throughout the day. They'd navigate the complications and compromises required to merge their lives. They'd probably fight again, make mistakes again, struggle again. But tonight, in this moment, everything felt possible. Everything felt right. And that was enough. 6 months after Isabella gave her notice, Daniel came home to find her sitting at their kitchen table. Their kitchen now, since she'd moved most of her things into his apartment 3 months earlier, staring at her laptop with an expression somewhere between panic and exhilaration. What's wrong? He asked, setting down his bag. Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. That's the problem. Isabella turned the laptop toward him. I just landed my 5th client, a major retail chain that wants to completely overhaul their marketing ethics. It's a 6-month contract worth more than I made in a quarter at my old job. That's amazing. Why do you look terrified? Because it's working. This whole thing I built from nothing is actually working. I have more clients than I can handle. I'm making good money. I love what I do. And that scares me because what if it falls apart? What if I made a huge mistake leaving corporate? Daniel sat beside her and closed the laptop. You didn't make a mistake. You took a risk and it paid off. You're allowed to enjoy that. I don't know how to enjoy things without waiting for them to collapse. I know, but maybe that's something we can work on together. He kissed her forehead. Where's Emma? At Rachel's. She's staying there tonight. Rachel's teaching her how to make cookies from scratch. So we have the place to ourselves? We do. Isabella's expression shifted, some of the anxiety giving way to something else. I was thinking we could talk. About us. About where this is going. Daniel's chest tightened. That sounds serious. It is serious, but not bad serious, just real serious. Isabella took his hands. We've been living together for 3 months. Before that, we were practically living together for 3 months. Emma calls me her bonus mom. Your neighbor thinks we're married. We've built this whole life, but we've never really talked about what happens next. What do you want to happen next? I want to know if this is permanent, if we're actually building towards something or just seeing where it goes. Isabella's voice was careful, measured. I need to know because I'm all in, Daniel. I've restructured my entire life around you and Emma, and I don't regret that, but I need to know if we're on the same page. Daniel felt his heart beating too fast. Are you asking if I want to marry you? Eventually, maybe, but right now I'm just asking if you see a future where we're still together, where this isn't just temporary. Isabella, I sold my car last month and we bought one together. We have a joint bank account for household expenses. Emma writes the Brooks Laurent family on her school papers. Of course I see a future. I can't imagine one without you in it. Then why haven't we talked about it? Because I was terrified of pushing too hard. You gave up so much to be here. I didn't want you to feel pressured into anything else. Isabella laughed, short and slightly bitter. You thought I'd feel pressured? Daniel, I moved into your 1-bedroom apartment with your 8-year-old daughter. I wake up to her jumping on the bed every Saturday. I spend my evenings helping with homework and making dinner and being a part of this family. If I felt pressured, I would have left months ago. So what are you saying? I'm saying I want more. I want to make this official. I want Emma to know I'm not going anywhere. I want to stop feeling like I'm waiting for permission to fully belong here. Isabella paused, vulnerability clear on her face. I want to marry you. Not today, not next week, but eventually. And I need to know if that's something you want too. Daniel felt emotion clog his throat. Yes. That's what I want. Yeah? Yeah, I've wanted it for months. I just didn't think I could ask. Why not? Because what do I have to offer you? You could have anyone. You could have someone with a career that matches yours, someone who doesn't come with a kid and an ex-wife and a life full of complications. I don't want someone else. I want you, complications and all. Isabella moved closer. You think you don't have anything to offer, but you gave me a home. You gave me a family. You gave me a reason to want something more than professional success. That's everything. I love you, Daniel said, the words feeling inadequate for what he actually felt. I love you too. So much it scares me sometimes. They kissed, and it felt different than it had before. Like a promise, like a commitment they were both finally acknowledging. When they pulled apart, Isabella was smiling through tears. We should tell Emma, she said, that we're getting married? That we're planning to, eventually. She should be part of this conversation. Agreed. But first, can we just sit here for a minute? I need to process that this is actually happening. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. They sat together in the kitchen that had become theirs, in the apartment that was too small for 3 people but felt exactly right anyway. Daniel thought about the night Isabella had asked him to fix her dating profile, about how impossible this future would have seemed then. Now it was the only future he could imagine. The next morning, they sat Emma down after breakfast. She looked between them suspiciously. Am I in trouble? No, Daniel assured her. We just want to talk to you about something important. Are you getting married? Emma asked bluntly. Daniel and Isabella exchanged glances. How did you know? You guys have been acting weird all morning. Plus, Rachel said you'd probably get married soon because you're always making hard eyes at each other. We do not make hard eyes, Isabella protested. You totally do. It's gross. Emma grinned. But also kind of nice. So are you? We're talking about it, Daniel said carefully. But we wanted to know how you felt about it first. This affects you too. Emma was quiet for a moment, her face serious. Would Isabella be my mom? I'd be your stepmom, Isabella said. Your mom is your mom, even if she's not here. But I'd be the person who shows up every day, who helps with homework and comes to school plays and loves you like you're mine. You already do all that stuff. I do. But if your dad and I got married, it would be official. We'd be a real family legally, not just in the ways that matter. Aren't we already a real family? We are, Daniel said. But this would make it permanent. It would mean Isabella's not just Dad's girlfriend. She'd be part of our family forever. Emma looked at Isabella. Do you promise not to leave? Like, actually promise? I promise. I chose this family. I chose you. And I'm not going anywhere. Even when I'm annoying? Especially when you're annoying. Okay, Emma nodded decisively. Then you should get married, but I get to be in the wedding, right? You'd be the most important person there besides us, Isabella said. Can I wear a fancy dress? The fanciest dress we can find. And can we have chocolate cake instead of regular wedding cake? We can have whatever kind of cake you want. Emma seemed satisfied. Okay, then, yeah, you guys should definitely get married. Daniel felt his chest expand with something that felt like hope and relief and pure joy. That's it? That's your whole opinion? What else do you want me to say? Isabella's been part of our family for months. This just makes it official. Emma paused. Plus, Rachel said if you got married, maybe we could move somewhere bigger. She said 3 people in a 1-bedroom is cozy, but impractical. Rachel has a lot of opinions, Daniel muttered. She's not wrong, though, Isabella said. We should probably start looking for a bigger place. With your money or our money? Our money. We're partners, Daniel. What's mine is yours. I'm not comfortable with that. I know. But we'll figure it out. Isabella squeezed his hand. One thing at a time. Over the next few months, they did figure it out. They looked at apartments together, argued about budgets and locations, eventually found a 3-bedroom place that was bigger than Daniel could have afforded alone, but smaller than what Isabella's money could have bought. They compromised on almost everything, furniture and neighborhood, and how much to spend on things they didn't actually need. The proposal happened on an ordinary Thursday. No grand gesture, no elaborate plan. Daniel just came home from work to find Isabella and Emma building a blanket fort in the living room of their new apartment. both of them laughing about something, and realized he didn't want to wait anymore. "Isabella," he said. She looked up from where she was trying to balance a blanket over two chairs. "Yeah?" "Marry me," Emma gasped. "Dad, you're supposed to have a ring." "I have a ring. I've had it for a month. I was waiting for the right moment, but this is it. This is the moment." Daniel pulled the box from his pocket, a simple band with a single stone. Nothing extravagant because he knew Isabella would hate anything too flashy. "I love you. I love the life we've built. I love watching you be part of Emma's world. I don't want to wait anymore to make this official." Isabella's eyes were shining. "That's the worst proposal I've ever heard." "It's the only proposal you've ever heard." "Fair point." She crossed the room and took the box from his hands, opening it to reveal the ring. "It's perfect." "So is that a yes?" "That's a yes." Isabella kissed him while Emma cheered in the background. "When?" "Whenever you want. Tomorrow, next year, whatever works." "How about next spring? Small ceremony, just the people who matter?" "Perfect." They got married the following April in a small ceremony at the courthouse, followed by a dinner with 20 people at the Thai restaurant where they'd had their first real date. Emma wore a purple dress she'd picked out herself and gave a toast that made everyone cry, talking about how she used to think families were just people who were related by blood. But now she knew families were people who chose to show up for each other every single day. Isabella's mother didn't come. They'd invited her out of obligation, but she'd declined with a brief email saying she had prior commitments. Daniel's parents came up from Florida, surprised but supportive. Rachel cried through the entire ceremony. Isabella's former assistant came and brought her new boyfriend. A few colleagues from both their jobs attended. It was small and simple and exactly what they wanted. At the dinner, after the toasts and the food and the cake that was indeed chocolate, Daniel found Isabella standing outside getting some air. He joined her on the sidewalk, both of them watching the city move around them. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Happy, terrified, grateful, all of it at once." Isabella leaned against him. "I keep thinking about the night I asked you to fix my dating profile. How desperate I was to find something real. And then you showed me what real actually looked like." "I think we showed each other." "Maybe." Isabella was quiet for a moment. "I have something to tell you. Please tell me it's not another job offer in another city." She laughed. "No, nothing like that. I've been thinking about what I want our life to look like going forward. What would make me happy beyond just work and family?" "What would make you happy?" "I want to do more. I want to use what I have to actually help people." Isabella turned to face him. "I've been researching nonprofit work, organizations that help single parents, specifically single mothers, who are struggling the way Claire was struggling. I want to start a foundation that provides resources, childcare subsidies, job training, mental health support, things that might have helped her stay instead of feeling like she had to run." Daniel felt something shift in his chest. "That's incredible. Is it weird to want to help people going through what your ex-wife went through?" "It's not weird. It's compassionate. Claire made her choice, and I'll always be angry about how it affected Emma. But I can also understand that she was drowning and didn't know how to ask for help. If we can help other people not drown, that matters." "We." You said we. "You're my wife now. Your projects are our projects." Isabella smiled, bright and genuine. "I like the sound of that. Your wife." "So do I." They went back inside to find Emma dancing with Rachel, both of them laughing at something. Daniel watched his daughter, their daughter now, legally and emotionally, and felt overwhelming gratitude for how everything had turned out. "You know what the best part of this is?" Isabella said, following his gaze. "What?" "She's happy. Really, genuinely happy. She's not worried about money or whether I'm staying or whether you're okay. She's just a kid being a kid. That's all I ever wanted for her. You gave her that, and you gave me a chance to be part of it." Isabella squeezed his hand. "Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me that night in the office, for helping me find what I was actually looking for, for letting me into your life even though it was risky. Best risk I ever took." The months after the wedding settled into a rhythm that felt sustainable. Isabella launched her foundation with money from her own savings and donations from her corporate contacts who felt guilty about their wealth. Daniel got promoted at work, Not a huge promotion, but enough that he felt valued, that his work mattered. Emma thrived in third grade, making friends and joining the school's science club, and generally being the smart, funny kid they'd raised her to be. They had hard days, of course. Days when Emma missed having a mom in the traditional sense, when she asked questions about Claire that Daniel didn't know how to answer. Days when money was tight despite Isabella's wealth, when they argued about spending priorities and what qualified as necessary versus excessive. Days when the differences in their backgrounds created friction neither of them knew how to resolve. But they worked through it. They talked instead of shutting down. They compromised instead of demanding their own way. They showed up for each other consistently, reliably, in the thousand small ways that built trust. One evening, about a year after the wedding, Daniel came home to find Isabella in what had become her office, the third bedroom they designated for her work. She was on the phone, pacing back and forth, her voice animated in a way he recognized as her passion voice. Yes, exactly. We'd cover childcare costs for the first 6 months while they complete the job training program. Then we'd help them transition to permanent employment with our partner companies. She paused, listening. I understand the concern, but we've vetted all the employers. We're not just placing people in any job, we're placing them in careers with growth potential and living wages. Daniel waited until she hung up before entering. How'd it go? We got the grant. $25,000 to expand the program to 3 more cities. Isabella turned to him, eyes bright with excitement. Daniel, this is really working. We've helped 43 women in the past year, 43 families that have stable housing and income now. That's 43 Claires who didn't have to choose between themselves and their children. I'm so proud of you. This is just the beginning. I've been talking to other foundations about partnerships. If we can scale this right, we could help thousands of families. She paused. Is this boring you? I know I get obsessive about this stuff. It's not boring me. I love watching you care about something this much. Isabella crossed the room and wrapped her arms around him. I never thought I'd have this. A life that feels meaningful beyond just accumulating more success. A family that actually feels like home. You. I never thought I'd have it either. After Claire left, I thought that was it for me. Work and Emma and trying to survive. I didn't think there was room for anything else. And now? Now I can't imagine any other life. This is it. This is what I want. Emma burst through the door, home from a friend's house, full of stories about the movie they'd watched, and the pizza they'd eaten, and how her friend's older brother was so annoying but also kind of funny. She talked through dinner, barely pausing for breath, and Daniel and Isabella listened with the attentiveness they'd both learned. How to make a child feel heard, how to make them feel like their stories mattered. After Emma went to bed, Daniel and Isabella sat on their small balcony with wine, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. It had become their ritual, this quiet time together after the chaos of the day, where they could just be 2 people instead of parents and partners and professionals. I was thinking, Isabella said after a while, we should take a vacation, just the 3 of us, somewhere Emma's never been. That sounds expensive. We can afford it. And before you argue about whose money we're using, remember that we're married now. There is no your money and my money. There's just our money. That's still hard for me. I know, but you're getting better. Isabella shifted to look at him. We could go somewhere with a beach. Emma's never seen the ocean. She'd love that. Then let's do it. Let's take a week and just be together without work or school or any of the normal stress, just us being a family. Okay, Daniel agreed. Let's do it. They went to the coast that summer, a small town in North Carolina with cheap hotels and quiet beaches. Emma saw the ocean for the first time and ran into the waves screaming with joy. They built sandcastles and collected shells and ate too much seafood. Isabella got sunburned despite layers of sunscreen. Daniel taught Emma to body surf. They took 100 photos, most of them blurry or poorly framed, but all of them capturing genuine moments of happiness. One evening, sitting on the beach while Emma searched for crabs in the tide pools, Isabella said, "This is what I wanted my life to be. Not the expensive vacations or the luxury hotels, just this. Simple moments with people I love." Do you ever regret it? Giving up the corporate track, the fancy apartment, all of it? Never. Not even for a second. Isabella watched Emma crouch down to examine something in the sand. I have everything that actually matters, and I didn't even know what that was until I met you. I think we found each other at exactly the right time, or exactly the wrong time, depending on how you look at it. We were both kind of a mess. True, but we figured it out. We did. Isabella leaned her head on his shoulder. Do you think Emma will remember this? When she's grown up, will she remember these moments? I think so. Not the specifics maybe, but the feeling. She'll remember feeling loved and safe and like she belonged somewhere. That's all I want for her. Me too. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Emma play in the fading light. Daniel thought about how far they'd come from that night in the office when Isabella had asked for help with her dating profile. How impossible it would have seemed then that they'd end up here, married, raising a child together, building a life that neither of them had planned, but both of them chose every single day. Daniel? Isabella said. Yeah? Thank you for taking a chance on me, for seeing past the billionaire executive thing and seeing the person underneath, for giving me a home. Thank you for showing up, for choosing us even when it was hard, for being the person Emma and I didn't know we needed. We're good together. We really are. Emma ran over, soaking wet and covered in sand, holding a shell she'd found. Look, it's perfect. No cracks or anything. Can I keep it? Of course you can, Isabella said. I'm going to put it on my shelf with all my other special things. Emma sat between them, still dripping. This is the best vacation ever. Yeah? Daniel asked. Yeah, because we're all together and nobody's worrying about work or money or anything. We're just being a family. That's exactly what we are, Isabella said. A family. They sat together as the sun set over the ocean, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. Three people who'd found each other through chance and choice, through risk and trust, through the willingness to believe that something better was possible. Years later, Daniel would look back on this moment as the one where he knew for certain they'd made it. Not because everything was perfect, it never was, but because they'd learned how to be imperfect together. They'd learned that love wasn't about grand gestures or perfect romance. It was about showing up consistently, choosing each other repeatedly, building something solid from patience and compromise and genuine care. Isabella's foundation grew, helping hundreds of families rebuild their lives. Daniel's career progressed steadily, never spectacular but always solid. Emma grew into a teenager who was smart and kind and occasionally infuriating, secure in the knowledge that she had two parents who loved her and each other. They fought sometimes, about money and parenting and all the complicated negotiations required to blend different lives. But they always came back to the same truth. They were better together than apart. They made each other more complete, more human, more capable of handling whatever came next. And what came next was simply more life. More dinners and homework battles and Saturday mornings. More conversations on the balcony with wine. More moments of frustration and joy and ordinary existence. More evidence that the best lives weren't the ones that looked impressive from the outside, but the ones that felt real from the inside. Standing in their living room on a random Tuesday evening, watching Isabella help Emma with a science project while simultaneously taking a work call, Daniel felt a contentment he'd never experienced before. This was it. This was the life he had been working toward without knowing what he was working toward. Dad, Emma called, come help us. We're making a volcano and Isabella says we need baking soda, but I think we need more vinegar. You need both, Daniel said, joining them at the table, and probably towels because this is going to make a mess. That's what makes it fun, Isabella said, putting her phone down. Work can wait. This is more important. And it was. The client calls and the deadlines and the professional obligations, they all mattered, but not as much as this. Not as much as Emma's excitement over a science project, or Isabella's willingness to get messy, or the three of them laughing when the volcano overflowed onto the table. Later, after Emma was asleep and they'd cleaned up the kitchen, Daniel and Isabella stood by the window looking out at the city. The same city where they'd started, where everything had begun with a late-night request and a willingness to take a risk on something uncertain. I love our life, Isabella said simply. So do I. It's not what I thought I wanted. Is it better? It's real. That makes it better than anything I imagined. Isabella turned to face him. I used to think success meant climbing higher, achieving more, accumulating proof that I mattered. But this, us, Emma, the foundation, these ordinary moments, this is what actually matters. This is what success really looks like. You're not worried you settled? I didn't settle. I chose differently. There's a distinction. Isabella smiled. I chose love over ambition, connection over achievement, a life that feels good over one that just looks good. That's not settling, that's growing up. Daniel pulled her close, feeling the familiar comfort of her presence. When you asked me to fix your dating profile, did you think we'd end up here? Not even close. I was just trying to find someone who'd actually see me. I didn't expect to find a whole life. Neither did I. But I'm glad we did. Me too. They stood together in the quiet apartment, in the life they'd built from scratch through trial and error and stubborn commitment. Outside, the city continued its endless motion, people searching for connection, for meaning, for whatever would make them feel less alone. Inside, two people who'd found what they were looking for stood holding each other, grateful for the courage it took to choose the uncertain thing, the real thing, the thing that mattered most. And in her room, Emma slept peacefully, surrounded by shells from the beach and drawings of her family and the accumulated evidence of a childhood built on stability and love. She dreamed of volcanoes and science fairs and all the ordinary magic of a life where she knew, absolutely knew, that the people who loved her weren't going anywhere. This was the happy ending, not because everything was perfect, but because they'd learned that perfect wasn't the point. The point was showing up. The point was choosing each other. The point was building something real and sustainable and deeply, genuinely human. And in the end, that was worth more than any boardroom success or impressive title or expensive apartment ever could be. That was everything. Part 5. Louis. Viết 6.500 từ liên kết liên mạch với các phần trước trong câu chuyện pha hồi thoại tạo thành một câu chuyện liền mạch khi ghép lại. Mỗi phần liền mạch với phần trước không giới thiệu lại câu chuyện ở đầu phần mới, liên kết các phần của câu chuyện một cách liền mạch, sử dụng câu chuyện tiếp giữa các phần. Duy trì chủ đề, tránh ngắt quãng đột ngột, không sử dụng gạch đầu dòng hoặc tiêu đề phụ, phong cách kể chuyện Mỹ, Hoa Kỳ, giống văn giàu cảm xúc. Kể theo ngôi thứ 3, giữ đồ kịch tính không viết lan man, nhân vật không hoàn hảo, hội thoại tự nhiên, tránh ngôn ngữ văn chương sáo rơi và cụm từ AI điển hình. Viết như nhà văn chuyên nghiệp, không như AI cố gắng nghe sang. Có yếu tố con người, cấm miêu tả qua mượt mà và hoàn hảo. Phần 5 giải quyết hết vấn đề và kết thúc trọn vẹn câu chuyện không nhắc đến Chúa. Lưu ý trả lời trong mục tin nhắn không nhảy sang document. Khi dần bắt buộc, không được xuất hiện trong nội dung truyện. Đây là một câu chuyện điện ảnh hoàn toàn hư cấu được tạo ra chỉ nhằm mục đích giải trí. Không đề cập hay ngụ ý rằng nó dựa trên sự kiện có thật, người thật hoặc câu chuyện có thật. Không sử dụng các cụm từ như dựa trên một câu chuyện có thật, theo ghi chép hoặc bất cứ điều gì tương tự. Tất cả các nhân vật, địa điểm, tổ chức và sự kiện phải hoàn toàn hư cấu. Showmore 1623, Part 5. 6 months after Isabella gave her notice, Daniel came home to find her sitting at their kitchen table. Their kitchen now, since she'd moved most of her things into his apartment 3 months earlier, staring at her laptop with an expression he couldn't quite read. What happened? He asked, setting down his work bag. Isabella looked up, and he saw it then. Not panic, but something close to it. I got a call today. From Marcus. Daniel felt his stomach drop. Marcus. The ex-fiancé she'd left 4 years ago. What did he want? He's getting married. To someone else, obviously. He called to tell me personally because he didn't want me to see it on social media first. Isabella closed her laptop slowly. He also wanted to tell me he forgives me for what I did, that he understands now that I wasn't ready for commitment, and he hopes I've found what I'm looking for. That's patronizing. It really is. Isabella stood and walked to the window, her arms crossed. But it made me think about what I left behind, about whether I actually found what I'm looking for, or if I just ran from one thing to another. Daniel felt cold. Are you having second thoughts? About us? No, not about us. About me. She turns to face him. Marcus has everything I thought I wanted back then. He's marrying a woman from a similar background. They'll have the perfect society wedding, the perfect life, everything coordinated and impressive. And part of me wonders if I made the right choice walking away from that. Do you want that life? I don't know. I thought I didn't, but then I launched my consulting business and it's not going as well as I pretended it was. I have 2 clients, Daniel, not 5, 2, and one of them is probably going to drop me next month because they think I'm too expensive. Isabella's voice cracked slightly. I gave up a guaranteed 6-figure salary for this. I turned down New York for this. And what if I made the wrong call? Daniel walked over to her carefully. Why didn't you tell me you were struggling? Because you're already worried about money constantly. Because I didn't want you to think I regretted choosing this life. Because I'm supposed to be the successful one who has everything figured out. Isabella wiped at her eyes angrily. I'm not supposed to be the person who fails. Having 2 clients isn't failing. You've been doing this for 6 months. These things take time. Easy for you to say. You have job security. I walked away from mine. The words stung more than Daniel wanted to admit. So you regret it. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Daniel stepped back, creating distance between them. This is exactly what I was afraid of. That you'd wake up one day and realize you gave up too much. That we weren't worth it. That's not what I'm saying, isn't it? You just told me you're questioning your choice. You're wondering if Marcus's life looks better than ours. What am I supposed to do with that? Isabella's face crumpled. I'm scared, okay? I'm terrified that I made this huge decision based on emotion instead of logic, and now I'm stuck in a life I can't sustain. I'm terrified that eventually you'll resent me for not contributing financially the way I said I would. I'm terrified that Emma will grow up and realize I'm just some woman who moved in and pretended to be her mother when I have no idea what I'm doing. Is that really how you feel? Sometimes, yes. Isabella sat down heavily on the couch. I wake up in the middle of the night and panic about whether I'm good enough for this, whether I'm cut out to be a parent, whether I belong here or if I'm just playing house until reality catches up. Daniel sat beside her, his anger deflating into something closer to fear. I thought we were past this. I thought we'd figured out that we were doing this together. So did I. But then Marcus called and it brought back everything I've been trying not to think about. Isabella looked at him, her eyes red. What if I'm not built for this kind of life? What if I need the structure and validation of corporate success? What if I'm too damaged from my childhood to actually be a good mother to Emma? You're not damaged. I am, though. My mother shipped me off to boarding school and never looked back. I spent my whole life trying to be successful enough that people would want to keep me around. And now I'm trying to build a family when I don't even know what a healthy family looks like. Isabella's voice broke. What if I screw Emma up the way my mother screwed me up? Daniel took her hands, holding them tightly. Listen to me. You are nothing like your mother. You show up. You care. You ask Emma about her day and help with her homework and go to her school plays. You're present in ways your mother never was. But what if it's not enough? What if she needs more than I can give? Then we figure it out together. That's what partners do. Isabella pulled her hands away. But that's the problem. You shouldn't have to figure out my issues. You have enough on your plate with work and raising Emma and dealing with the aftermath of Claire leaving. You don't need a girlfriend who's having an existential crisis about whether she made the right life choices. So what are you saying? You want to leave? I don't know what I'm saying. I just know I'm not okay right now. They sat in heavy silence. Outside, the city continued its evening routine, cars honking, people walking home from work, life moving forward while theirs felt suspended. Daniel tried to think of something to say that would fix this, but nothing came. Emma's key turned in the lock. She'd been at a friend's house after school, scheduled to come home at 6. Daniel checked his watch, 5:58. Perfect timing, as always. I'm home, Emma called, dropping her backpack in the hallway. She appeared in the living room doorway, took one look at their faces, and stopped. What's wrong? Nothing, sweetheart, Isabella said, but her voice was wrong. You've been crying. Emma looked between them. Are you guys fighting? We're just talking through some stuff, Daniel said. Adult stuff, nothing for you to worry about. Is Isabella leaving? The question hung in the air like a grenade. Isabella's face went pale. Why would you think that? Daniel asked carefully. Because that's what people do when they fight. They leave. Emma's voice was matter-of-fact, but her eyes were frightened. Mom left after fighting with you. Is Isabella going to leave too? No, Isabella said immediately. Emma, no, I'm not leaving. But you were thinking about it. I can tell. Isabella looked stricken. I was having doubts. About myself, not about you or your dad. But that doesn't mean I'm leaving. Doubts about what? About whether I'm doing a good enough job. About whether I belong here. Emma crossed the room and sat between them on the couch. She looked smaller than usual, curled up with her knees to her chest. Do you want to belong here? More than anything. Then you do belong. That's how it works. Emma looked at her seriously. You don't have to be perfect, Isabella. You just have to stay. Isabella started crying for real then, pulling Emma into a hug. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for making you worry. It's okay to be scared, Emma said, her voice muffled against Isabella's shoulder. Dad gets scared all the time. He just pretends he doesn't. I do not, Daniel protested weakly. You totally do. Last week you had a nightmare about not being able to pay rent, and you woke up yelling about eviction notices. Isabella looked at Daniel. You didn't tell me that. Because it was embarrassing, and also because I didn't want you to worry about money. See? Emma pulled back from Isabella. Everyone's scared sometimes, but we're a family. We're supposed to help each other be less scared, not more scared. Daniel felt his throat tighten. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You guys just don't listen. Emma looked at Isabella again. You're not like my mom. My mom left because she didn't want to be here. You're here because you do want to be here. That's different. What if I'm not good at this? What if I make mistakes? Everyone makes mistakes. Dad burns dinner like twice a week. I failed my spelling test last month. You're allowed to mess up. Emma took Isabella's hand. But you have to stay anyway. You have to stay even when it's hard. That's the rule. Isabella laughed through her tears. That's the rule? That's the rule. I made it up just now, but it's a good rule. Daniel watched them, feeling something break open in his chest. Emma had articulated what he'd been too afraid to say, that staying mattered more than being perfect. That commitment meant showing up even when you weren't sure you were doing it right. She's right, Daniel said quietly. We're all figuring this out as we go. None of us knows what we're doing, but we're doing it together. Isabella wiped her eyes. I don't want to leave. I need you both to know that. I'm just scared I'm going to fail at this. You can't fail at being part of a family, Emma said. You can only fail by leaving. Everything else is just practice. Practice, Isabella repeated. I like that. Good. Now can we have dinner? I'm starving. The crisis didn't resolve itself that easily, of course. Over the next few weeks, Isabella struggled visibly with her business, with her role in their family, with the gap between who she'd been and who she was trying to become. But she didn't leave. She showed up to dinner every night, helped with homework, came to Emma's school events. She stayed even when it was uncomfortable. One evening, about a month after the conversation with Marcus, Daniel found Isabella in their bedroom staring at her laptop again. What are you looking at? He asked. Job postings. There's an executive position open at a firm downtown. It's not as prestigious as the New York job would have been, but it's stable. Good salary, benefits, everything we need. Daniel's heart sank. Are you applying? I don't know. Should I? Isabella turned to face him. My consulting business isn't working, Daniel. I've been lying to myself about it for months, but I have to face reality. I need steady income. We need steady income. We're managing fine. We're managing on your salary and my savings. That's not sustainable long term. So take the job if that's what you need to do. But that's not what I want to do. I want the consulting to work. I want to build something meaningful that helps people. I want the flexibility to be here for Emma when she needs me. Isabella's voice rose with frustration. I want all of it, and I can't have all of it, and I don't know how to make peace with that. Daniel sat beside her. What if we looked at this differently? What do you mean? You said you want to help people. You want meaningful work. What if, instead of trying to compete with big consulting firms for corporate clients, you focused on the nonprofit sector? Organizations that need marketing help but can't afford the big agencies? Isabella was quiet, thinking. The money wouldn't be as good. No, but it might be more sustainable, more aligned with what you actually care about. I'd still need to cover my share of expenses. We can adjust our budget, cut back on some things. I don't want you to have to cut back because of my choices. Isabella, we're partners. Your choices are our choices. Daniel took her laptop and closed it. I need you to hear this. I don't care if you make a lot of money. I care that you're here. I care that you're present with Emma and with me. I care that you're building a life you actually want instead of one that just looks impressive. What if I can't do that? What if I need the external validation too much? Then we figure that out too. But you don't have to decide right now. You don't have to have all the answers. Daniel pulled her close. You just have to stay. Isabella leaned against him. Emma said the same thing. She's a smart kid. She really is. Isabella was quiet for a moment. Okay, I'll try the nonprofit angle, see if I can build something there. And if it doesn't work, then we'll figure out plan C together. Over the next several months, Isabella rebuilt her business model. She reached out to small nonprofits, offered reduced rates in exchange for longer-term contracts, started building a client base that actually aligned with her values. The money was less than she'd made in corporate, but it was enough. More importantly, it felt right. Meanwhile, Emma turned 9. They celebrated with a small party at their apartment, just a few of her closest friends. Isabella made cupcakes that were lopsided and slightly burnt, but Emma declared them perfect anyway. They played games and watched movies and fell asleep on the couch in a pile. Later that night, after all the guests had left and Emma was asleep in her room, Daniel and Isabella cleaned up the wreckage of the party. This is nice, Isabella said, wiping frosting off the counter. Cleaning up after 9-year-olds? No, this, all of it, the mess and the noise and the ordinary chaos of it. She paused. I talked to my mother last week. Daniel looked up, surprised. You did? She called out of the blue. First time in almost 2 years. She wanted to tell me she's engaged. Some retired banker she met at a charity gala. Isabella threw the paper towel in the trash with more force than necessary. She mentioned she saw Marcus's wedding announcement. She said it's good that he found someone who's ready for commitment, and maybe someday I'll figure out what I actually want. That's cruel. That's her. Isabella leaned against the counter. But the weird thing is, it didn't hurt the way it used to. I used to hang on every word from her, desperate for any sign of approval. This time I just felt sorry for her. Why? Because she has no idea what she's missing. She doesn't know Emma. She doesn't know you. She doesn't know that I built this whole life that's messy and imperfect and more real than anything she's ever had. Isabella's eyes were bright, but not with tears, with something fiercer. She thinks I'm failing because I'm not following her script, but I'm not failing. I'm just living differently. Daniel crossed the kitchen and pulled her into his arms. I'm proud of you. For what? For choosing this. For staying even when it was hard. For figuring out who you actually want to be instead of who everyone else thinks you should be. I almost left, Isabella admitted. After Marcus called, after I realized my business was struggling, I almost packed up and went back to corporate life because it would have been easier. What stopped you? Emma, you. The thought of missing her birthday parties and school plays and all the ordinary moments that actually matter. Isabella pulled back to look at him. I realized I'd rather struggle here with you than succeed somewhere else without you. That's the most romantic thing you've ever said. I know, I'm getting soft in my old age. They finished cleaning in comfortable silence. When they finally went to bed, Isabella curled against Daniel's side the way she always did. Daniel? She whispered. Yeah? Will you marry me? He went completely still. What? I know it's supposed to be the guy who asks. I know we've only been together for less than a year, but I don't want to wait. I want to make this official. I want Emma to know I'm not going anywhere. I want you to know that I chose this life and I'm going to keep choosing it. Isabella propped herself up on one elbow to look at him. So will you? Marry me? Daniel felt his eyes burn. I don't have a ring to give you. I don't care about rings. I care about you and Emma and this life we're building. Then yes, obviously yes. Isabella kissed him, and it felt different than their other kisses, more solid somehow, more permanent. When they broke apart, both of them were smiling like idiots. We should tell Emma in the morning, Isabella said. She's going to lose her mind. In a good way? In the best way. They lay in the dark, holding each other, both of them aware that something significant had shifted. This wasn't just two people dating anymore. This was family. This was commitment. This was choosing each other deliberately, fully, with all the mess and complication that came with it. The next morning, they told Emma over breakfast. She screamed so loudly the neighbors probably heard, then demanded to know when the wedding would be and whether she could be the flower girl. "You can be whatever you want to be," Isabella said, laughing. "I want to be the person who announces you, like, 'Ladies and gentlemen, here comes the bride,' but louder." Deal. They decided on a small ceremony at the courthouse, followed by dinner at their favorite restaurant. Nothing fancy, nothing elaborate, just the three of them and a few close friends, making it official in the simplest way possible. The day of the wedding, Daniel woke up to find Isabella already awake, staring at the ceiling. "Second thoughts?" he asked. "Third and fourth thoughts. But I'm still doing it." "What are you worried about?" "Everything. That I'm not ready.